Chapter 2:21. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm, among the red rocks. These red rocks really do belong to me. Pallas nodded heavily, his tone starting to become a little impatient as he explained. But it's now under my brother's management, because it's the same as me. It's a pitiful monster that's looked down upon, ostracized, and mocked everywhere. However, he didn't feel any disgust or displeasure towards Howard's mention of killing hundreds of thousands of 5-poison exotic beasts. This point was enough to prove that Pallas also advocated killing and disregarded life. I see. Howard nodded after hearing Pallas's explanation. He finally understood why Pallas, who was on the side of good, would actually send out the 5-poison exotic beasts to kill him and Wu Jingjun. It turned out that all of this was an order from another terrifying exotic beast. Afterwards, Howard directly stood up and cupped his hands, saying, "It's my fortune to be able to meet Brother Mu today. Although Brother Mu's temper and nature are worthy of a deep friendship, your brother's temper and methods are hard for me to accept. Now that the treasure my brother needs has been given to him by Brother Mu, I'll leave this place with my brother as soon as possible." Seeing Howard say goodbye, Pallas raised his hairy arm, wanting to urge him to stay. "Brother, wait a moment." However, when Howard saw the warmth in Pallas's eyes gradually being replaced by another emotion, he didn't hesitate and directly turned to leave. After leaving Pallas' line of sight, he directly burst forth with his fastest speed and charged towards the rubble where Wu Jingjun was devouring and refining the 5-poison exotic beasts. Howard, what's going on? They had been getting along harmoniously, but Howard had suddenly left. Now, he was reacting like a startled bird. This made the tower spirit very confused. "Fowling, I don't have the time to explain right now. I'll explain it to you in detail after we leave the Red Rocks." Howard casually answered Fowling's question and increased his speed even more urgently. When Kai first entered the depths of the Red Rocks, it was under the guidance of Fowling's divine sense that he had wasted a lot of time in order to collect some precious herbs that contained toxins. Now, with the boost of his maximum speed, it only took him less than 10 minutes to return to the rubble field once again. However, just as he entered the rubble, he was given a fright by the dense horde of 5-poison beasts in front of him. Thinking that Wu Jingjun was in the midst of the thundering stones, Howard forced himself to calm down. Then, he shouted towards the Fowling in his sea of consciousness. "Fowling, northwest, 540 meters. There was no need for Howard to say it directly. Fowling knew what he meant, so he directly expanded his divine sense and locked onto the leader of the 5-poison beasts, the snake tribe. His speed at the peak of greater mastery allowed Howard to instantly appear in front of the snake tribe leader, who was no more than 3 meters long, but gave off an aura that surpassed the peak of the 9th rank of the 9th step. This time, Howard had no intention of capturing alive. He used all of his origin energy to form a giant palm and directly smashed the snake tribe leader into a meat patty. Southeast, 570 meters. Just as Howard killed the snake tribe leader, Fowling had already locked onto the position of the second group of 5-poison beasts, the leader of the scorpion tribe. In the rubble, "Senior Brother Wu, if we don't choose to break out of the encirclement, I'm afraid we'll all die here." Gong's son Yiming, who had already absorbed the water attribute Vermilion Fruit's energy in advance, suggested to the pale-faced Wu Jingjun after killing several hundred of the 5-poison beasts that had rushed up the boulder. Behind Gong's son Yiming and Wu Jingjun was a beautiful woman with a sexy figure and outstanding looks. However, she was different from Wu Jingjun and Gong's son Yiming. Although their cultivation was only at the peak of the 9th rank of martial warrior, their true strength had reached the martial master realm. They could use their origin energy to create illusions and kill the 5-poison beasts in a large area. She could only use her fair, jade-like hands to slap the 5-poison beasts that were rushing up the boulder one by one. "It's not that I don't want to break out of the encirclement, but that I can't," Wu Jingjun said gloomily as he shook his head in response to Gong's son Yiming's suggestion. He didn't know if he was lucky or unlucky. In less than half an hour after Howard left the rubble, His bloodthirsty physique had been activated to 99% with the help of a large number of the 5 poison beast corpses. Considering the Blue Moon Secret Realm's restrictions on cultivation and realm, he didn't continue to devour and transform the 5 poison beast corpses. Instead, he planned to leave the rubble and look for Yu Haoran. However, just as he was about to leave, he happened to see Gong's son Yiming, who had accidentally barged into the rubble. Although Gong's son Yiming had made Yu Haoran very disappointed due to various concerns, he was still a peerless genius that Yu Haoran admired from the beginning and was willing to take the initiative to recruit. Moreover, Gong's son Yiming had accidentally barged into the rubble by himself. This meant that he had either abandoned those burdens or met with an accident. Alone Gong's son Yiming was exactly what Yu Xiang had been looking forward to. Therefore, Wu Zhangjun didn't leave immediately. Instead, he planned to talk to Gong's son Yiming first. However, what Wu Zhangjun never expected was that although Gong's son Yiming had barged into the rubble by himself, there was an endless horde of 5 poison beasts behind him. Wu Zhangjun, who had just been surrounded by the 5 poison beasts, knew that it was impossible to escape the elusive 5 poison beasts in the rubble. Therefore, he hurriedly called Gong's son Yiming to the boulder and used the same method of attacking and defending against the 5 poison beasts to fend off their encirclement. In the following period of time, more and more of the 5 poison beasts kept gathering. Moreover, the disciples who had entered the rubble for training seemed to be consciously herded into the rubble as well. The beautiful Zhang Ro with a hot figure and outstanding looks gathered together with Wu Zhangjun and Gong's son Yiming under such circumstances. As for the other disciples who had barged into the rubble, they either couldn't hold on and were devoured by the 5 poison beasts, or took the risk to break out of the encirclement. However, Wu Zhangjun knew that the countless 5 poison beasts definitely wouldn't let them leave the rubble alive. They were probably already devoured by the 5 poison beasts until not even their bones remained. Seeing that Wu Zhangjun didn't agree to break out of the encirclement, Gong's son, Yiming, urged anxiously, "Senior brother Wu, staying here means certain death. If you choose to break out of the encirclement, there's still a chance of survival. Don't hold on any longer." If he hadn't abandoned his junior brothers who needed his protection, he wouldn't have been able to stay safely in the ancient town sect. He needed the protection of Yu Haoran, who had the secret transformation technique and wasn't afraid of any force. He had long abandoned Wu Zhangjun and Zhang Ro and chose to break out of the encirclement alone. Chapter 222. In the Blue Moon Secret Realm, among the Red Rocks. Facing the elixir that Wu Zhangjun handed to him, Gong's son Yiming fell into deep thought. If he could recover all his elemental energy within 3 seconds, then with his own strength and speed, he had a 90% chance of breaking out of the encirclement. However, if he broke out of the encirclement alone and Yu Haoran found out about it, then it would be good enough if he didn't seek revenge on him. How would he be able to protect his and his sister's lives in the face of the entire ancient town sex coercion? After much consideration, Gong's son Yiming shook his head and rejected the offer while continuing to kill the 5 poison exotic beasts that came forward. "Senior brother Wu, if I take this elixir and run for my life alone, then am I, Gong's son Yiming, still human?" Seeing Gong's son Yiming's choice, a happy smile appeared on Wu Zhangjun's face. The gift of the elixir earlier was actually a test. If Gong's son Yiming chose to take the elixir and break out of the encirclement alone, then with Yu Haoran's character, no matter how great Gong's son Yiming's achievements and opportunities in the future, he wouldn't recruit him to Qinyan Peak. If he chose to refuse and stay, then Wu Zhangjun would plead with Yu Haoran for him afterwards. Not only would he give him the white jade dragon python's dragon birth that he had always wanted, but he would also think of a way to let him leave the ancient town sect and join Qinyan Peak as a disciple of Qinyan Peak. Now, Gong's son Yiming's choice made him feel very gratified. Gong's son Yiming's choice also made Zhang Ro, who was behind him, secretly heave a sigh of relief. Now, the reason why they were able to resist the encirclement of the 5 poison exotic beasts was entirely because of the cooperation of Gong's son Yiming and Wu Zhangjun. If Gong's son Yiming left, Wu Zhengjun wouldn't be able to take care of the 5 poison exotic beasts in all directions. With just the 2 of them, they wouldn't even last a minute. Fortunately, Gong Sun Yiming still had a conscience and did not do anything selfish. Junior brother Gong Sun, keep this pill first. If the vermilion fruit runs out, you'll need more pills to recover your elemental energy. We have a hold on until Yu Shixiang returns. Since Gong Sun Yiming had made the choice that he was most pleased with, Wu Zhengjun would definitely not cherish the pill in his hands. When he gave the pill back to Gong Sun Yiming, he also told him the reason and hoped that Gong Sun Yiming had persevered for so long. I hope so. Gong Sun Yiming sighed after receiving the pill from Wu Zhengjun, then continued to unleash his full strength to kill the 5 poison exotic beasts. Although Gong Sun Yiming had also practiced palm techniques before, they were still far inferior to Yu Haoran's light wind palm. As such, the 3 of them gradually showed signs of not being able to hold on as more and more 5 poison exotic beasts gathered. Yu Shixiang, if you don't come back soon, I'm afraid you'll never see your junior brother again. Seeing more and more 5 poison exotic beasts jumping on the rocks, Zhang Ro could no longer kill all of them by herself. Wu Zhengjun could only temporarily give up on long-range attacks and help Zhang Ro deal with the 5 poison exotic beasts on the rocks while shouting in his heart. It was as if the heavens had heard his inner cries. As the fastest of the 5 poison exotic beasts, the snake beast suddenly came to harass them. Immediately afterwards, the other 4 exotic beasts began to surround and kill the snake beasts in a frenzy. The familiar scene before him made Wu Zhengjun rejoice in his heart. He then said loudly to the confused Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro, Yu Shixiang is back, and he's already started dealing with the 5 poison exotic beasts. We're safe. After hearing Wu Zhengjun's explanation, Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Wasn't the reason they'd been pushing themselves so hard to wait until Yu Haoran returned. However, they didn't let their guard down completely. That was because there were still quite a number of scorpion tribe, toad tribe, thousand-legged centipede tribe, and spider tribe surrounding the rocks. They were desperately jumping onto the rocks, planning to attack them. However, they didn't attack for too long. As the scorpion tribe, toad tribe, and thousand-legged centipede tribe broke out into chaos one after another, the exotic beasts around the rocks not only retreated, but also joined in the chaotic battle. Hurry up and recover your stamina and elemental energy. Seeing the 5 poison exotic beasts retreat from the rocks, Wu Zhengjun took out a few pills and handed them to Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro, reminding them. Without wasting any time, Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro took the pills and quickly recovered their stamina and elemental energy. Thowling, help me find the fastest route out of the red rocks. Yu Haoran ordered urgently after dealing with the last spider leader of the 5 poisons exotic beasts. Although Yu Haoran didn't explain why he was in such a hurry to leave the red rocks, Thowling could vaguely guess that the red rocks were about to undergo an uncontrollable change from his series of actions. As such, he didn't disturb Yu Haoran. Instead, he directly used his divine telekinesis, which was close to the limits of the secret realm, to help Yu Haoran determine the fastest route out of the red rocks. After instructing Thowling to determine the fastest route out of the red rocks, Yu Haoran charged directly into the rubble. He was very surprised when he saw Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro sitting cross-legged on the rocks. This was because he didn't know when Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro had appeared in the rubble. However, now wasn't the time to be surprised. Thus, Yu Haoran took out a pill, woke the 3 of them up, and instructed them. It's an emergency. There's no time to explain. I'll take Zhengjun and Zhang Ro. Gong Sun Yiming, this pill can recover all your elemental energy in 3 seconds. Follow behind me. Let's go. Without allowing the 3 of them to express any opinions, Yu Haoran grabbed Wu Zhengjun and Zhang Ro's arms and charged desperately toward the entrance of the rubble. Gong Sun Yiming, who had originally wanted to delay, immediately realized that something had happened in the rubble when he saw Yu Haoran's frantic actions. Thus, he hurriedly swallowed the pill and followed Yu Haoran out of the rubble. Turn left. Thowling, who had already determined the route, reminded them after charging out of the rubble. Without any hesitation, and without cherishing the elemental energy in his dantian, Yu Haoran continued to charge toward the entrance of the rubble as fast as he could. Just as Yu Haoran led Wu Jingjun and the others to break out of the rubble, a deafening roar suddenly came from the depths of the rubble. Accompanied by the deafening roar, countless 5-poison exotic beasts scurried out from underground, rocks, and weeds, chasing in the direction Yu Haoran had broken out of the rubble. In the depths of the rubble, dozens of powerful exotic beasts, whose sizes and auras far surpassed ordinary 5-poison exotic beasts, left the depths of the rubble at lightning speed, chasing in the direction Yu Haoran had broken out of the rubble. Chapter 223. Inside the Blue Moon's secret realm, within the Red Rocks. When they were less than 20 li away from the entrance of the Red Rocks, Yu Haoran suddenly asked, "Fowling, can you check if there are any among the 5-poison exotic beasts charging at us that can threaten us?" "Not yet." The pagoda spirit scanned the area with his divine sense and didn't discover any high-ranked 5-poison exotic beasts that could threaten Yu Haoran. Just as the pagoda spirit heaved a sigh of relief and was about to tell him, dozens of 5-poison exotic beasts whose auras far exceeded Yu Haoran's suddenly barged into the range of his divine sense. After quickly estimating the speed and strength of both parties, Fowling hurriedly reminded Zhang Che, "Yu Haoran, quick, go a little faster. There are several dozen 5-poison exotic beasts with strength at the peak of Martial Ancestor Stage 9 behind us. They're quickly catching up. How much time do they have before they catch up to us?" Yu Haoran asked while maintaining his original speed. 30 seconds at most. Fowling quickly replied. 30 seconds. If he didn't bring Wu Jingjun and Zhang Ro along, he could barely escape from the Red Rocks with his footwork that was close to the perfection stage. But now, since he couldn't escape the pursuit of those high-ranked 5-poison exotic beasts, he could only face them head-on. After tossing Wu Jingjun and Zhang Ro to Gong Sun Yiming, Yu Haoran instructed, "Gong Sun Yiming, take Jingjun and Zhang Ro and leave this place. I'll fend off the 5-poison exotic beasts that are about to charge over. Yu Xiao, I'm not leaving. If we live, we live together. If we die together. I'll fend off those 5-poison exotic beasts with you." The combined aura of several dozen 5-poison exotic beasts at the peak of 7th level 9 was enough to stir up the blood clouds in the sky. As such, even Zhang Ro, who was only a 3rd-grade martial warrior, could feel those terrifyingly powerful exotic beasts quickly approaching. Faced with Yu Haoran's plan to sacrifice himself to save their lives, Wu Jingjun was the first to disagree. He forcefully broke free from Gong Sun Yiming's grasp and stood on Yu Haoran's left without fear of death. Although Zhang Ro was only a 3rd-grade martial warrior, she stood on Yu Haoran's right without fear of death. "AI, since we're going to die, let's die with a bang." Seeing Wu Jingjun and Zhang Ro's choice, Gong Sun Yiming sighed and swallowed the 5-poison exotic beast elixir pills. Where were you? "Jingjun, since I've chosen to stay, I naturally have a means to deal with those 5-poison beasts. You don't have to worry about my safety. Right now, I want you to leave this place immediately." Although he was moved by Wu Jingjun and the others' decision to stay, the current situation made Yu Haoran very angry. Seeing Wu Jingjun ignoring his orders, Yu Haoran knew that if he didn't give a reasonable reason, Wu Jingjun wouldn't run for his life. "Jingjun, these red rocks are very special. Not only is the environment very special, there's also an exotic beast that can offset part of the Blue Moon Secret Realm's laws. In the Red Rocks, I'm not restricted by the Blue Moon Secret Realm's laws. I can directly use the secret transformation technique and burst out with the strength of a 5th-grade diamond monkey, which is the strength of a martial king. If that's the case, you can rest assured." After quickly explaining his reason for staying, Yu Haoran looked expectantly at Wu Jingjun. However, he realized that Wu Jingjun still had no intention of leaving. Helpless, Yu Haoran could only take advantage of Wu Jingjun's distraction to knock him out. Yu Haoran ordered firmly as he handed the unconscious Wu Jingjun to Gong Sun Yiming. Gong Sun Yiming, I wasn't lying about my reason just now. I really do have a way to save my life. However, junior brother Wu and I have an extraordinary relationship. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he definitely wouldn't leave. But at that time, even if I have the strength of a martial king, I'm afraid that I won't be able to leave this place safely, let alone bring you all away. So, I want you to bring them away from here unconditionally. Yu Xixiang, I believe in you. Unlike Wu Jingjun, Gong Sun Yiming's righteous attitude was only forced by reality. He didn't want to die, and he couldn't die. This was because he still had to take care of his sister, who was about to reach adulthood, and he still had a beautiful future to enjoy. As such, he nodded decisively in agreement to Yu Haoran's request. He forcefully pulled Zhang Ro, who was unwilling to leave, towards the entrance of the Red Rocks. To be able to live again and retain the memories of his previous life for 100 years, Yu Haoran naturally didn't want to die. The reason why he chose to stay behind to fend off the several dozen 5-poison exotic beasts that were about to charge over was because he had two options to save his life. The first option to save his life was the reason he gave Wu Jingjun earlier, which was to use the Vajra monkey's blood essence in his meridians and use a secret transformation technique to kill the 5-poison exotic beasts. As the strongest of the 5-poison exotic beasts charging over was only at the peak of the 7th rank, 9th rank, which was the peak of the 9th rank martial grandmaster realm, he only needed to activate a 5th of the Vajra monkey's blood essence. This way, he would be able to easily slaughter the 5-poison exotic beasts, and he wouldn't suffer too severe of a backlash from the blood essence. If the environment of the Red Rocks didn't allow him to successfully use the secret transformation technique, then he had a second option, which was to enter Victor's body and leave Victor behind as a rock. According to Thaling's introduction, let alone the 7th rank, 9th rank, 5-poison exotic beasts, even a martial honorable realm expert would find it difficult to break through Victor's defenses. If the 5-poison exotic beasts chose to leave after discovering that they couldn't break through Victor's defenses, he could come out again and leave the Red Rocks unscathed. If the 5-poison exotic beasts didn't leave, they could only wait until the Blue Moon's secret realm closed and use the secret realm's rules to passively leave. After Gong Sun Yiming left with Wu Jingjun and Zhang Ro, Yu Haoran began to activate the Vajra monkey's blood essence in his meridians. After the blood essence merged with his body and began to forcefully increase his strength, Yu Haoran didn't feel any restrictions. He knew that the secret transformation technique could also be used in the Red Rocks. Furthermore, it wouldn't be restricted to a certain extent like Thaling's divine sense. After activating a 5th of the Vajra monkey's blood essence and reaching a height of 59 meters, Yu Haoran decisively stopped activating the blood essence's energy. Then, he directly took out the As I Wish rod from the blood essence and let out a roar towards the sky. Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro, who were about to leave the Red Rocks, both let out a long sigh of relief when they heard the Vajra monkey's roar. Since he could let out the Vajra monkey's roar, it meant that Yu Haoran had successfully used the secret transformation technique. Then, with the strength of a martial emperor, escaping the Red Rocks shouldn't be a problem. Therefore, they quickened their pace and rushed towards the entrance of the Red Rocks. Chapter 224. Inside the Blue Moon's secret realm, within the Red Rocks. Whether it was in this life or his previous life, Yu Haoran had never practiced staff techniques, nor had he collected any martial techniques related to staff techniques. However, when he held the Do As I Wish rod in his hand and faced the incoming 5-poison exotic beasts, he seemed to be able to use staff techniques instinctively. The Do As I Wish rod, which was originally only 2 meters long, suddenly began to grow longer and thicker. Then, with the crushing force of Mount Tai, it directly smashed 10 5-poison exotic beasts that had reached the peak of the 7th rank. With a light wave of his left wrist, he used the total annihilation of his staff technique and sent nearly 25 poison exotic beasts flying. Then, the Do As I Wish rod automatically shrunk, and he took the opportunity to charge into the midst of the 5 poison exotic beasts. Smashing, picking, thrusting, waving, flicking. In any case, all kinds of moves that were suitable for staff techniques naturally reached the peak of the greater perfection realm in Yuharen's hands. Combined with the might of the dew, as I wish rod, although his transformation was only at the peak of the 7th rank, the true strength he could unleash was almost at the peak of the 6th rank, which was the peak of the 9th rank Martial King. With such powerful strength, none of the 5 poison exotic beasts that were charging over were a match for his staff. In a short 20 seconds, more than 65 poison exotic beasts that had reached the peak of the 7th rank, 9th rank, were all buried under the dew, as I wish rod. Just as Yuharen easily killed more than 65 poison exotic beasts that had reached the peak of the 7th rank, 9th rank, a very strange roar suddenly came from the depths of the red rocks. This roar didn't belong to the 5 poison exotic beasts. It was also a roar that Yuharen had never heard of before. Strength wasn't equal to cultivation realm. Even after transforming into the 7th rank Vajra monkey, Yuharen still couldn't use his divine sense, so he couldn't find the source of the strange roar just now. Thaling, whose divine sense could only extend to about 5,000 meters, was unable to see the appearance of the exotic beasts due to the distance of the roar being too far. However, the aura that was faintly emitted from the roar just now made Yuharen and Thaling's expressions change uncontrollably. Without needing Thaling's reminder, Yuharen rushed towards the entrance of the red rock while still in his transformed state. The moment Yuharen moved, a toad's tongue suddenly reached out from the depths of the red rocks. The strength of the peak of the 7th level 9th rank increased the speed of the peak of the Great Accomplishment Realm by dozens of times, allowing Yuharen to truly transform into a gust of wind. However, the speed of the wind was still slightly slower than the tongue that was reaching out towards him. According to the distance and speed between them, Yuharen knew that it was impossible for him to escape the tongue attack before he left the group of red rocks. Left with no choice, Yuharen could only turn around and continue to stimulate the Vajra monkey's blood essence while raising the dew, what I wish rod in preparation for the incoming tongue. Sigh, brother do you on, brother you is my friend. Let him leave. At the moment when Yuharen stimulated the power of his blood essence, his strength reached the peak of 9th grade Martial King. Just as the tongue was about to clash with the dew, what I wish rod, a sigh came from the group of red rocks. Then, a deep voice advised the owner of the tongue. After hearing the deep voice, Yuharen couldn't help but sigh in relief, knowing that he was temporarily safe. Big brother Chien, that brat killed millions of my descendants. How can I let him go so easily? Although the tongue attack had temporarily stopped, the strange beast known as Brother Du Yuan was unwilling to give up. Brother Du Yuan, brother, you slaughtered your descendants because you coveted their perfect bodies and planned to use them to leave this damned demon-sealing secret realm. Faced with Du Yuan's unwillingness, Pallas continued to patiently persuade him. When Pallas mentioned the demon-sealing secret realm, Yuharen couldn't help but frown. Big brother Chien, our strength has already reached the limit of the secret realm. If we don't think of a way to leave, we will be killed by the secret realm's rules in 10 years at most. Although Pallas's words made sense, Du Yuan still didn't want to give up. Brother Du Yuan, don't worry. I have already found a way to leave the demon-sealing secret realm. It will take at least 3 years, and at most 5 years. You and I will definitely be able to leave this damned demon-sealing secret realm. Pallas continued to persuade impatiently. Really, they would be able to leave the demon-sealing secret realm in 3 years, and at most 5 years. Pallas's guarantee moved Du Yuan. Du Yuan, you and I have known each other for 100 years. Have I ever lied to you? Pallas retorted. This? Du Yuan fell into deep thought. Using a poison curse to control a human with a perfect body to sign a pet beast contract and then use it to leave the demon-sealing secret realm was the result of decades of research. Although this method seemed feasible, there was a certain risk involved. For example, whether the chosen human could withstand the poison curse's toxicity. If they couldn't withstand the poison, they wouldn't be able to sign a pet beast contract. This was also why Du Yuan had chosen a human with a perfect body. This was because only a martial artist with a perfect physical body would be able to withstand the curse's toxicity to the greatest extent and successfully sign a pet beast contract. Whether the poison curse could control a human martial artist perfectly. If it couldn't be controlled perfectly, what if the human martial artist regained consciousness after signing a pet beast contract? Then their life and death, freedom and enslavement would be completely in the hands of the human martial artist. Therefore, using a perfect body to leave the demon-sealing secret realm was a double-edged sword. There was a chance of success, but there was a higher chance of failure. All right, I can let him and his 3 companions go for the time being. However, the others who entered the rocks must become my food. After weighing the pros and cons, Du Yuan finally agreed to Palace's persuasion. However, he also made his own request. Those people have nothing to do with me. How you want to deal with them is your business. Seeing that Du Yuan was willing to let him go, Yu Haoran secretly breathed a sigh of relief. While suppressing the power of the blood essence, he expressed his stance. Yu Haoran's sudden declaration made Du Yuan very unhappy. It was as if he was born to look down on human martial artists, or rather, he looked down on creatures with normal looks. Therefore, he threatened fiercely. I'll let you live for the time being today for Big Brother Scarlet Loathing's sake. Don't let me see you again in the future. Otherwise, I'll definitely tear you into pieces and feed you to my descendants. Du Yuan, don't worry. We'll never meet again in the future. With a cold laugh, Yu Haoran sucked at the corpse of the 5 poisons exotic beast. Immediately, dozens of drops of blood essence containing a huge amount of poison were sucked into his palm. Opening his mouth and swallowing the dozens of drops of poisonous blood, Yu Haoran maintained his transformed appearance and turned to fly toward the entrance of the Red Rocks. Chapter 2:25. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. When he was less than 10 meters away from the entrance of the Red Rocks, Yu Haoran stopped using the secret transformation technique and took out a large amount of pills that could be used to recover his Yuan Li and heal his injuries from his storage ear. When he was 1 meter away from the entrance of the Red Rocks, his body size had returned to normal. Then he walked away from the Red Rocks and swallowed a large amount of pills. Yu Shixiao, you're out. When Wu Zhengjun saw that Yu Haoran's face was slightly pale and his breathing was a little messy, he quickly went up and comforted Yu Haoran. Let me heal the backlash from the secret transformation technique first. Gesturing to Wu Zhengjun to guard him, Yu Haoran sat down cross-legged. Then, with the help of a large number of pills, he began to repair the damage to his body caused by the backlash of the secret transformation technique. Luckily, his body had reached the complete rank 10 realm, and his perfect body state allowed him to better withstand the explosive power of the secret transformation technique. Moreover, he had only activated a quarter of the energy of the Vajra monkey's blood essence for the secret transformation technique. The duration of the transformation was also very short. Therefore, after the secret transformation technique ended, the backlash from the secret transformation technique only caused some damage to his internal organs and consumed a lot of primary power. Overall, there was not much effect. With the help of a large amount of top-notch healing pills, Yu Haoran only spent 10 minutes to recover completely. However, he did not open his eyes immediately. Instead, he explained to Thaling what had happened in the Red Rocks. Thaling, ask away. You were getting along well with Palace. Why did you suddenly choose to leave? Thaling, who had accumulated a lot of questions in his heart, quickly asked. Thaling, you are also incompatible with each other. If you want the water and fire attributes to coexist, you need the wood attribute to mediate. However, the condition for mediating is that the power of the 3 attributes must be the same. Only then can you achieve mutual promotion and restraint. Although Scarlet Pheasant, Scarlet Ape, and Scarlet Eye are all ancient divine beasts, the difference in strength between them is like the difference between heaven and earth. Back then, the red-eyed beast relied on the power of the wood attribute to barely preserve the offspring of the Scarlet Pheasant and Juyin blood essences. However, the offspring of the red-eyed beast also suffered an even more powerful backlash. As a result, Palace has 3 personalities. One is the earth origin that he inherited from his mother. The other is the scarlet pheasant of the water origin and the scarlet ape of the fire origin. These three personalities coexist in Palus's body and influence Palus's personality at the same time. At this point, Howard couldn't help but sigh and continue. When we first met Palus, he just happened to have the nature of the wood origin. This kind of nature is relatively gentle and won't get angry easily, let alone kill people for no reason. Thaling, the reason why I chose to leave immediately was because Palus's personality was in the process of changing when we talked about the ownership of the red rocks and the source of the poison. Because I didn't know if his personality would change into the kind scarlet pheasant or the world-weary scarlet ape. For safety's sake, of course, I chose to leave immediately. I see. After hearing Howard's explanation, Thaling finally understood why he had left in such a panic. It was all because of the three personalities that Scarlet Ape possessed. What's the source of the poison? The first question that had accumulated in his heart had been solved, so Thaling hurriedly asked the second question. Don't you know what the source of the poison is? Faced with Thaling's questioning, Howard asked curiously. After all, the source of the poison was a consensus among experts above the martial emperor realm. Should I know what the source of the poison is? Howard asked curiously, making Thaling even more confused. The so-called source of the poison is the most original poisonous power in the bodies of the scorpion tribe, snake tribe, toad tribe, thousand-legged centipede tribe, and spider tribe. It's a kind of poison that's close to the original poison after the fusion. Howard explained in detail. After hearing Howard's explanation, Thaling couldn't help but laugh bitterly and said, I thought the source of the poison was some kind of earth-shattering existence. So it's just the product of the fusion of different poisons. Thaling, don't underestimate the power of the source of the poison. Seeing Thaling's nonchalant attitude, Howard was afraid that he didn't know the power of the source of the poison and hurriedly reminded him. In my previous life, I once saw a record about the source of the poison in the forbidden grounds of the first-rate sect, the Five Poison Sect. About 30,000 years ago, the Five Poison Sect once had a peerless genius who used poison. He used the original poisonous power of the 5 poison exotic beasts to fuse an incomplete source of the poison. With the incomplete source of the poison, he easily killed a martial honorable expert. I know. Just the incomplete source of the poison was enough to kill a peerless expert of the martial honorable realm. Then, wouldn't the complete version of the poison be able to easily kill Emperor Wu? Howard's reminder made Thaling put away the contempt in his heart. Howard, one last question. The fate of Palus and the monster called the source of the poison. Although Palus was affected by the blood essences of 3 different ancestors, causing his consciousness to constantly change, he also received the inheritance of the 3 ancestors at the same time as he was affected by the 3 different personalities. Before entering the demon god's ancient tomb, we met once. At that time, he was already preparing to break through to the martial honorable realm. He is indeed the descendant of a divine beast with extraordinary talent. Although he didn't use his divine telekinesis to check Palus's grade and strength, due to the special environment of the secret realm, Thaling knew that Palus's grade couldn't have broken through to the peak of the 5th rank. In other words, it took less than 100 years for him to break through to the martial honorable realm after leaving the secret realm. To a human ancient martial art practitioner, to be able to break through to the martial honorable realm in such a short period of time, he was definitely a top genius. Then, to an exotic beast that advanced slowly, it was an unbelievable improvement. As for the exotic beast called the source of the poison, it might have died earlier, because I've never seen it in my previous life, nor have I heard Palus mention it. I've also never heard of it in the Tianxian continent. One look, and I can tell that the source of the poison wasn't a good thing. An early death is a good thing, Thaling said hatefully. Thaling, are you done with your questions? Howard didn't find any objections to Thaling's evaluation of the source of the poison. He only asked Thaling if there were any more questions. No, You can continue to train in the secret realm. Thaling waved his hand, indicating that he should continue to refine his natal instrument. Wait, but at this moment, Yu Haoran suddenly called out. Through his mind, Thaling pretended to look at Yu Haoran with a questioning expression. Through his mind, Yu Haoran stared at Thaling, who was about to materialize, and asked, "Say it." "Say what?" Thaling asked with a puzzled expression. Seeing Thaling's puzzled expression, Yu Haoran couldn't help but mock him. Pretend, keep pretending. Chapter 226. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. What's the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm? Thaling shook his head and pretended that he had never heard of it before as he responded to Yu Haoran's interrogation. Thaling, you can pretend if you want, but at least you have to act more realistically. Yu Haoran couldn't help but expose Thaling with a sneer when he saw him continue to pretend that he didn't know anything about the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm. Thaling, when Pallas mentioned how to leave the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm, not only did you look surprised, but you also subconsciously repeated the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm 3 times. Yu Haoran quickly expressed his attitude when he saw that Thaling was about to refute in order to prevent him from fooling him. Thaling, don't use excuses like my cultivation is too low, my strength is too weak, and I know about the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm in advance and won't use it for my cultivation. Since I've already told you everything I know about Pallas, shouldn't you also tell me about the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm? Thaling knew that it was impossible to fool him when he saw that Yu Haoran had already noticed his loss of composure when he knew that the Blue Moon Secret Realm was the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm. However, the involvement of the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm's existence was deeper than his main body, Victor. It could even be compared to the secret of the demon god's ancient tomb. Therefore, no matter how Yu Haoran set up a trap, Thaling wouldn't fall for it, and he wouldn't reveal any secrets about the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm. He did this to protect the secret of the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm, and also for Yu Haoran's own good. Yu Haoran, it seems that you've misunderstood me. The reason why I was surprised at that time was because that guy called Du Yuan actually planned to use your perfect body to escape the restrictions of the Blue Moon Secret Realm. As for the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm, I've never heard of it at all. Fine, you win. When Yu Haoran saw that Thaling had actually started to lie in order to not reveal the secret of the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm, he knew that it would be useless even if he continued to interrogate him. Therefore, he made up his mind that when he broke through to the Martial Ancestor Realm and had the ability to leave the 100 Chi Gate to travel, he would rely on his own strength to figure out the secret of the Demon Ceiling Secret Realm. Opening his eyes, Yu Haoran saw Wu Vingjun and the others guarding him and greeted them with a smile. Gong Sun Yiming, Zhang Ro, why are you with Zhang Jun? Yu Shixiao, here's the thing. Zhang Ro rarely spoke when she was with Wu Jingjun. Firstly, when she had set up the trap, the prey was Wu Jingjun. Moreover, the two of them had hugged each other before. This made her a little embarrassed to face Wu Jingjun. Secondly, her real target was Yu Haoran. She did not want her existence to affect the brotherly relationship between Yu Haoran and Wu Jingjun. She also did not want Yu Haoran to misunderstand her. After hearing Zhang Ro's explanation, Yu Haoran nodded to indicate that he understood. As for her suggestion that someone had deliberately set up a trap to lure them into the Red Rocks, Yu Haoran knew even more about what was going on. He was afraid that all of this was done by that guy, called Du Yuan. Yu Shixiao, I have a very close junior sister who is now trapped in the Red Rocks. I wonder if Yu Shixiao can help her? After seeing that Yu Haoran understood the reason for their gathering, Zhang Ro thought for a long time and finally asked for his help. Because the junior sister who was trapped in the Red Rocks was her only close friend in Heart Moon Sect. She was also her best friend who could make her reveal her inner secrets. If there was a chance, she did not want to lose this close friend and best friend. My condolences. Even if it was someone he knew, he would not return to the Red Rocks, let alone a stranger who was trapped in the Red Rocks. Because even though Zhu Yan's character was kind, as a mutated beast with the bloodline of ancient divine beasts, it was still very domineering. If he returned to the Red Rocks and disobeyed Du Yuan's request, it would undoubtedly be challenging the authority of Pallas. The result could be imagined. Sigh. After hearing Yu Haoran's reply, Zhang Ro knew that everyone who entered the Red Rocks, except for the four of them, had probably died in the mouths of the mutated beasts of 5 poisons. Thinking of how good her junior sister usually was, Zhang Ro suddenly felt a little down. Yu Shixiang, if it wasn't for Gong Sun Yiming coming in time, I would have... After Yu Haoran and Zhang Ro ended their conversation, Wu Zhengjun quickly put in a good word for Gong Sun Yiming, hoping to dispel the disappointment in his heart towards Gong Sun Yiming. Junior brother Gong Sun, this is the birth of the white jade dragon python. I think you're planning to use it to cultivate a martial technique similar to the flood dragon. Hearing Wu Zhengjun speaking up for Gong Sun Yiming, how could Yu Haoran not know what he meant? In fact, regardless of Wu Zhengjun's intercession, Yu Haoran would temporarily choose to forgive Gong Sun Yiming's expression in the rubble. Thank you, Yu Shixiao. Gong Sun Yiming quickly thanked him after receiving the pill bottle that Yu Haoran tossed over. Then, he said with a smile, looks like I can't hide anything from Yu Shixiao. I'm indeed planning to use the birth of the white jade dragon python to cultivate a martial technique called the 7 transformations of the flood dragon. What? The ancient town sect actually has the 7 transformations of the flood dragon. He originally thought that Gong Sun Yiming was only cultivating a martial technique similar to the flood dragon, but after hearing about the 7 transformations of the flood dragon, he was immediately shocked. Yes, almost every disciple knows that the ancient town sect has the 7 transformations of the flood dragon. Gong Sun Yiming replied honestly, not understanding why Yu Haoran was so surprised. Originally, Yu Haoran was worried that the 7 transformations of the flood dragon belonged to Gong Sun Yiming's private collection and would be too embarrassed to ask for a look. Since it was a common item of the ancient town sect, Yu Haoran did not have too many misgivings. Senior brother Gong Sun, can you lend me the 7 transformations of the flood dragon? Of course. Nodding his head, Gong Sun Yiming agreed straightforwardly. But then he scratched his head and said with slight embarrassment, Yu Shixiang, the 7 transformations of the flood dragon belongs to the ancient town sect's hidden sutra pavilion. According to the sect's rules, it is not allowed to be taken out of the hidden sutra pavilion, so there's no need to look at the original. You just need to give me a detailed introduction of the original content. Yu Haoran waved his hand, indicating that he did not care about the original content. All right, Gong Sun Yiming used his powerful memory and began to repeat the original content of the 7 transformations of the flood dragon word for word. How is this possible? After hearing Gong Sun Yiming's description of the 7 transformations of the flood dragon, the shock on Yu Haoran's face deepened. The 7 transformations of the flood dragon was a top-notch martial technique created based on the living habits and fighting styles of flood dragons that had reached rank 7 and above when they reached adulthood. In his past life, he had seen a description of the 7 transformations of the flood dragon in a very dilapidated historical site. According to the records, the 7 transformations of the flood dragon was only at the beginning of the mystic class when it was first created. But as one went deeper into the practice, each of the 7 transformations represented a different class of the martial art. The first transformation was only at the beginning of the mystic class. The second transformation was at the middle of the mystic class. The third transformation was at the high of the mystic class. The fourth transformation was at the peak of the mystic class. Chapter 227. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. When one reached the 7 transformation of the 7 forms of the flood dragon, one could directly transform into a flood dragon. Depending on the realm and strength of the user, as well as the level of understanding of the 7 forms of the flood dragon, the power of the 7 transformation could reach the peak of the earth rank or even the peak of the heaven rank. In his previous life, Yu Haoran had seen a real flood dragon more than once in the ruins. He had also fought with a real flood dragon before. The strength of the flood dragon was still fresh in his memory. He also had a strong desire for the martial skill that would allow him to transform into a flood dragon. It was a pity that he had never heard of any clues about the 7 forms of the flood dragon even though he had explored countless ruins and ancestral caves of the ancestors, and had also infiltrated first-rate sects and top sects. However, Howard had never thought that the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon, which he had searched high and low for, would actually be right under his nose. This could be said to be ironic, but it could also be said to be a kind of luck. Junior brother Gongsun, the 7 forms of the Flood Dragon is of great significance to me. I may need the help of the white jade dragon python to cultivate, so... At this point, Howard's consciousness entered his storage ear to search for a martial skill that was compatible with the 7 forms of the Flood Dragon, so that he could cultivate the 7 forms of the Flood Dragon with peace of mind. However, he did not find anything in the end. In desperation, he could only ask for help from Thaling, hoping that Thaling could give him enough top-notch martial skills to exchange for the 7 forms of the Flood Dragon. Howard, I found a dark, high-level whip martial skill in the Law Enforcement Peak collection of martial skills. I think it's suitable for the 7 forms of the Flood Dragon. In response to Howard's request for help, Thaling quickly found a suitable martial skill for the exchange. Thaling, if the 7 forms of the Flood Dragon can be cultivated to the 7th transformation, its power can reach the heaven rank. Is a dark, high-level whip martial skill suitable? Howard was not very satisfied with the martial skill that Thaling had chosen. Howard, I remember telling you before that there is no difference between strong and weak martial skills. There is only the depth of the martial skill practitioner's understanding of the martial skill itself. From that brat's casual tone, I can tell that no one in the Ancient Town sect has been able to successfully cultivate the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon. Since no one was able to successfully learn it, it also means that its value is not even comparable to a normal low-grade yellow rank martial skill to the people of the Ancient Town sect. Since it's a martial skill that's not even comparable to a low-grade yellow rank martial skill, then I think that Gongsun Brat is still an advantage by exchanging it with a high-grade profound rank martial skill. The Tower Spirit, who is always considerate of Howard, couldn't help but criticize his stubborn way of thinking. All right, Howard explained as he took the whip technique from Thaling's hands and handed it directly to Gongsun Yiming. Junior brother Gongsun, I see that you're good at using whip techniques. I have a high-grade, profound rank whip technique here. It should be able to exchange for the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon that I just described. Seeing that the whip technique Howard handed over was actually a high-grade, profound rank whip technique, Gongsun Yiming was shocked. In the Ancient Town sect, only the elders and core disciples had the qualifications to cultivate profound ranked martial skills. For a disciple like him, who seemed to be valued but was actually pushed aside by the core disciples, it was likely that he would need to break through to the Martial King realm before he had the qualifications to cultivate them. As for the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon that he just described, it was almost useless in the Ancient Town sect. This was because in order to cultivate the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon, one would need treasures that were compatible with the Flood Dragon's body, such as the Dragon's Birth, the Flood Dragon's Eye, the Flood Dragon's Blood Essence, and so on. As a Flood Dragon that contained the bloodline of the Divine Dragon, it could reach the 8th rank when it was born. When it reached adulthood, it could reach the 7th rank or above. Furthermore, the strength of a mutated beast was far stronger than that of a human, not to mention a Flood Dragon that contained the bloodline of the Divine Dragon. With the strength of the Ancient Town sect, not to mention capturing a Flood Dragon alive, even finding one was a delusion. If it wasn't for the fact that he had accidentally obtained the Blue Moon Secret Realm, where there might be a white jade dragon python that contained the bloodline of the Divine Dragon and whose blood essence was barely compatible with cultivating the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon, he probably wouldn't have borrowed the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon martial skill. Therefore, Gongsun Yiming didn't accept the whip technique that Howard handed over. Instead, he spoke the truth. Yushi Xiaong, this 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon, is considered the most common martial skill in the Ancient Town sect. With the special relationship between the 100 Chi Gate and the Ancient Town sect, you can casually look at martial skills like this. Therefore, I can't accept this whip technique. Forcefully shoving the whip technique into Gong Sun Yiming's hands, Yu Haoran said domineeringly, "All right, I have my own principles when doing things. I feel that the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon is worth exchanging for a mystic high-grade whip technique, so it's worth exchanging." After that, he looked around and asked Gong Sun Yiming and Zhang Ro, "Next, junior brother Wu and I will continue to enter the secret realm. What arrangements do you have?" "Yu Xiao, my cultivation has already reached the peak of the 9th grade martial warrior. The environment of the Blue Moon secret realm doesn't allow me to break through to the martial master realm. Therefore, I plan to use the White Jade Dragon Python's bloodline to cultivate the 7 transformations of the Flood Dragon. After mastering the first transformation, I will continue to enter the secret realm." Although he wanted to follow Yu Haoran to explore the secret realm, Gong Sun Yiming knew that the moment the secret realm closed, he would leave the ancient town sect and join Qingyun Peak. In order to be valued by Yu Haoran and to raise his position in Qingyun Peak, he had to rely on his own methods to make Yu Haoran look at him in a new light. Therefore, Gong Sun Yiming planned to rely on his own efforts to continue to raise his strength to prove that he was worthy of being roped in by Yu Haoran. All right, Yu Haoran also approved of Gong Sun Yiming's choice. After all, through the exchange just now, Yu Haoran already knew that Gong Sun Yiming was willing to bring his sister to Qingyun Peak. Although he didn't know what happened in between, to be able to gain 2 exceptional geniuses, especially one with a special physique, and be able to become the famous Gong Sun Yuding in the Tianxian continent in the future, he felt very gratified. Since they could become fellow disciples of the same sect in the future, he couldn't refuse some of their requests. However, he couldn't casually reveal some of his secrets to others. Therefore, Gong Sun Yiming was willing to train by himself, which was exactly what he wanted. It also meant that he didn't need to find a reason to send him away. Yu Xiao, there's a natural Yin spring about 700 miles away from here. I plan to use the Yin Qi in the Yin spring to temper the flames of desire caused by the soul hooking technique. Moreover, the Blue Moon secret realm is too dangerous. I plan to cultivate in that Yin spring until the secret realm closes. Seeing Yu Haoran's gaze looking over, Zhang Ro quickly explained her next goal. Using the Yin Qi to temper the flames of desire to achieve the level of Yin and Yang. It seems that junior sister Zhang has already comprehended the true essence of the soul hooking technique. Chapter 228. Inside the Blue Moon secret realm. Junior sister Zhang, junior brother Wu, and I happened to pass by the Yin spring when we entered the secret realm. Let us escort you for the rest of the journey. Yu Haoran suggested enthusiastically. Using the cold Yin Qi to temper the flames of desire was only to eliminate the hidden danger on the surface of the soul hooking technique. The real problem was not solved at all. Therefore, Yu Haoran planned to introduce the soul hooking technique to her in detail for the rest of the journey, as well as the things to pay attention to in the process of cultivation. It could also be considered as an indirect repayment to someone he owed in his previous life. Thank you, Yu Xiao. Zhang Ro clearly stated her next goal and thoughts. Actually, she had the idea of being escorted by Yu Haoran. After all, the Red Rocks could be said to be the watershed of the Blue Moon secret realm. Outside was the outer area of the Blue Moon secret realm. As long as one did not enter those dangerous areas, the danger was not high. Moreover, there were designated safe areas by the sect. But inside was the inner area of the Blue Moon secret realm. Not only were the mutated beasts more powerful, but there were also more natural traps. With her strength as a 3rd-grade martial warrior, going to the Yin Spring alone was no different from sending herself to her death. If Yu Haoran had not taken the initiative to escort her, she would have returned to the safe area designated by the sect and waited for the secret realm to close. Fortunately, her guess of Yu Haoran's nature was not wrong. The soul hooking technique that she cultivated might have some special meaning to Yu Haoran. Junior brother Gong Sun, farewell. Since they had already confirmed their next goal, Yu Haoran did not want to delay any longer. Thus, he bid farewell to Gong Sun Yiming. Yu Xiao, senior brother Wu, junior sister Zhang, Take care. Cupping his hands, Gong's son Yiming turned and headed straight for the nearest safe area. He planned to use the quiet and safe environment of the safe area to cultivate the first transformation of the 7 transformation of the Flood Dragon. After he successfully cultivated the first transformation of the 7 transformation of the Flood Dragon, he would enter the secret realm to find Yu Haoran and prove his worth in front of him. Let's go. After Gong's son Yiming left, Yu Haoran instructed Wu Jingjun and Zhang Ro. Then he stepped away from the red rocks and continued to venture deeper into the secret territory. Not long after Yu Haoran left, the poison source that he had a brief confrontation with suddenly stretched out its long tongue and directly reached the entrance of the red rocks. At the tip of the long tongue stood a young man with an outstanding appearance but an overly feminine temperament. Kid, remember what you promised me earlier. Otherwise, within the entire Blue Moon secret realm, you can forget about escaping from my Poison Origins pursuit. Senior, don't worry. In the next few days, this junior will definitely bring you more blood food. Glancing at the palm-sized spirit herb in his hand, which was shaped like a Ganoderma and emitted a strong spirit herb aroma, the feminine young man promised solemnly. Go and come back quickly. The long tongue swayed up and down before quickly retracting back into the red rocks. Senior brothers, junior brothers, senior sisters, and junior sisters, I'm sorry. This junior brother also wants to live. I also want to become an influential figure in the sect. Therefore, I need all of you to complete all of this for me. The feminine young man placed the palm-sized Ganoderma under his nose and took a sniff before muttering to himself with a sinister expression. Then, he headed straight for the nearest safe zone to the red rocks. I didn't expect junior sister Zhang Ro to be so affectionate. Other than the disciples of our sect, she actually hooked up with 2 senior brothers from the 100 Chi Gate. After leaving the red rocks, Yu Haoran escorted Zhang Ro to the Yin Spring, while explaining to her the hidden dangers that she was currently facing, as well as the things that she needed to pay attention to when cultivating the art of soul hooking in the future. After listening to Yu Haoran's detailed explanation, the problems that had originally troubled her were easily solved. However, just as Yu Haoran reached the key point of his explanation, a teasing voice suddenly interrupted their conversation. Frowning slightly, Yu Haoran raised his head and saw that on the left side of their path, there were several huge rocks piled up together. There were 5 disciples dressed in Heart Moon Sect's intersect disciple uniform standing on top of them. The teasing voice just now came from the fiercest-looking young man with the strongest aura among the 5. Yu Shi Xiang. These 5 people are also the genius disciples under the sect leader. With their cultivation of the martial warrior realm, they directly enjoy the best treatment of the inner sect disciples. The person who mocked me just now is called Qi Bin Bai. He is the eldest disciple under the sect leader and one of the most valued disciples of Martial King Qingyuan. The other 4 disciples are also disciples of Martial King realm experts under the sect master. Seeing that Yu Haoran's attention was attracted by the person who mocked him just now, Zhang Ro hurriedly introduced them. Qi Bin Bai? Never heard of him. After carefully searching through his memories, he realized that there was no information about Qi Bin Bai. Thus, he knew that this person was either unknown or had no interaction with him in his previous life. Thus, Yu Haoran could not be bothered with this kind of ordinary person who had no interaction with him in his previous life and was not famous. Let's continue walking. After reminding them, Yu Haoran continued to walk forward. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant. Seeing that Yu Haoran and the others ignored him, Qi Bin Bai's face darkened, and he scolded them with a strange tone. I'll give you 3 seconds to scram. Otherwise, you will stay here forever. Yu Haoran threatened Qi Bin Bai impatiently as he coldly glanced at him. Brat, I'll also give you 3 seconds to obediently send Zhang Ro to my side. Otherwise, you and that brat will stay here forever. Faced with Yu Haoran's threat, Qi Bin Bai threatened him in an even more domineering manner. Zhang Jun, hurry up. Zhang Ro and I will wait for you in front. Being able to let Qi Bin Bai live under the premise of humiliating Zhang Ro was already Yu Haoran's greatest kindness. However, Qi Bin Bai's insatiable actions made him want to kill him. After reminding Wu Jingjun, Yu Haoran indicated for Zhang Ro to continue walking with him. Junior sister Zhang, it seems that your days in Heart Moon sect are not very comfortable. Yu Haoran asked with concern as he walked away. Yu Xixiang, calling me junior sister Zhang is too unfamiliar. Why don't you call me Rower in the future? Qi Binbai's teasing just now seemed to be a joke. However, in Zhang Ro's opinion, her purpose of befriending Yu Haoran was not simple. Since the purpose was not simple, why not take the initiative? Therefore, she planned to start by calling Yu Haoran closer. Okay, I'll call you Rower in the future. Yu Haoran did not think too much about the change in address, so he followed Zhang Ro's suggestion. Yu Xixiang, you also know that Rower cultivates the art of seduction. Even if I don't want to pay attention to others, my every move is seducing them in the eyes of others. So, Chapter 229. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Roa, I can understand you. I also know that you are a clean girl. Otherwise, when you set up a trap to ambush Wu Jingjun, I would have already killed you. Indicating that Zhang Ro did not need to be too sad, Yu Haoran comforted her warmly. Yu Xixiang, thank you for your understanding. A clean girl. Yu Haoran's evaluation just now made Zhang Ro feel that all the rumors and humiliation she had endured before were worth it. Persevere in your beliefs. In the future, you will discover the charm of the soul hooking technique. You will also be grateful that you have persisted in cultivating the soul hooking technique. Just as Yu Haoran continued to comfort Zhang Ro, Wu Jingjun, whose breathing was slightly fluctuating, caught up. Turning his head to look at Wu Jingjun, Yu Haoran discovered that Wu Jingjun, who had activated 99% of his bloodthirsty physique, had begun to restrain the fierce killing aura on his body. This also proved that his control of his own strength had become more perfect. Thank you for your hard work. Yu Haoran thanked Wu Jingjun as he nodded his head. Yu Xixiang, you also know that I like to fight. In the future, senior brother can leave such insignificant characters to me. Wu Zhengjun, who did not speak, gave off a rather quiet temperament. However, when he opened his mouth to speak, his bloodthirsty and fanatical character was exposed. Regarding this, Yu Haoran really did not know what to say. Halfway up a mountain that was about 300 meters tall, Yu Xixiang, is this the Yin Spring? Zhang Ro asked with a trembling voice as she tightened her clothes. That's right, this is the Yin Spring. Moreover, it is a rather good quality Yin Spring. Yu Haoran nodded and replied as he looked at the crystal-clear mountain spring that was less than 3 meters in diameter and half a meter deep at the waist of the mountain. If I were to cultivate in this place, I'm afraid that in less than 5 minutes, the elemental energy in my dantian would condense into ice. He guided a strand of cold yin qi into his body. A chill that made one feel frozen was unbearable even for Wu Jingjun, who had a perfect physical body. Therefore, he was very puzzled and asked, Junior sister Zhang, are you sure this is the Yin Spring that can temper the flames of desire? Senior brother Wu, according to the information I obtained from the sect's records, this Yin Spring is able to temper the flames of desire in my body. Nodding, Zhang Ro said with certainty. However, after feeling the bone-chilling coldness, the certainty on her face turned into hesitation. Rower, don't worry. This Yin Spring is definitely able to calm the flames of desire in your body. However, you cannot directly cultivate in the Yin Spring. You must find the best place to absorb the Yin Qi according to your constitution and tolerance. Then, through adaptation and adjustment, you can slowly approach the Yin Spring. While explaining to Zhang Ro how to make use of the Yin Qi in the Yin Spring, Yu Haoran operated the Great Mystery Heart Sutra and began to try to absorb a strand of Yin Qi. When the Yin Qi entered his body through his meridians, he felt a freezing sensation in his internal organs, causing him to temporarily enter a state of numbness. Fortunately, his physical body had broken through to the perfect 10th stage and reached the perfect state, causing his internal organs to be very strong. Slightly mobilizing a strand of energy in his physical body, the freezing sensation completely disappeared. When the strand of yin-chi entered his dantian, Yu Haoran was pleasantly surprised to find that the yin-chi emitted by the yin spring was able to purify the elemental energy in his dantian. Originally, he was still worried that he would not be able to completely purify the elemental energy in his dantian before the Blue Moon Secret Realm closed. Now that he had the yin spring that could purify the elemental energy in his dantian, he was naturally not in a hurry to leave. The yin-chi emitted by this yin spring, other than being able to temper the flames of desire in your body, it can also purify the elemental energy in your dantian and increase your potential and strength. So, at this point, Yu Haoran glanced around, and his gaze finally returned to Wu Zhengjun and Zhang Ro. So, for the next period of time, Zhengjun, you also need to use the yin-chi in the yin spring to purify the elemental energy in your dantian. Yes, Yu Shixiao. As long as it did not involve his safety, Wu Zhengjun would not reject any of Yu Haoran's orders. Today is the 4th day since the Blue Moon Secret Realm opened. There are less than 6 days before the Secret Realm closes. Time is of the essence, so let's make the best use of our time to cultivate. After giving his instructions, Yu Haoran finally sat down cross-legged 3 meters away from the yin spring according to his own condition. After repeated attempts, Wu Zhengjun finally sat down cross-legged 7 meters away from the yin spring. Looking at Yu Haoran, who was 4 meters away from him, Wu Zhengjun could not help but laugh bitterly. Originally, he thought that his physical body had reached the perfect state and his bloodthirsty physique had been activated to 99%. His strength should have caught up and even surpassed Yu Haoran. But now, it seemed that the gap between his strength and Yu Shixiang's had not only not narrowed, but had instead widened. After that, Wu Zhengjun calmed his qi and concentrated and began to guide the yin qi into his dantian. After a total of 20 experiments, Zhang Ro finally sat down 30 meters away from the yin spring with her knees bent. Looking at Wu Zhengjun and Yu Haoran, who were sitting cross-legged in front of her, Zhang Ro's face flashed with a trace of dejection. However, the dejection did not last for long before it was replaced by determination. After that, she began to slowly guide the yin qi into her body. However, she did not purify the elemental energy in her dantian like Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun. Instead, she directly guided the yin qi to her chest. This was because there was an invisible flame that could not be seen by the naked eye. And this invisible flame was the flame of desire that had troubled her for a long time. It was also the main culprit that caused her to be criticized in the sect. Time passed by minute. An hour later, Yu Haoran, who was using the yin qi to purify the elemental energy in his dantian, suddenly stood up and walked 1 meter forward. Although it was only 1 meter, his whole body began to tremble. But in the end, he resolutely sat down and began to cultivate again. 3 hours later, Yu Haoran, who had completely adapted to the yin qi 2 meters away, opened his eyes again. His expression was somewhat hesitant as he looked at the yin spring, which was only 1 meter away. The cold yin qi at the 3 and 2 meter positions had already purified 99% of the elemental energy in his dantian. However, the remaining trace of elemental energy could not be purified no matter how much cold yin qi he guided. Faced with this situation, Yu Haoran knew that it was because the yin qi 2 meters away did not have enough energy to purify the remaining elemental energy of the full circle stage. In order to purify the remaining elemental energy, he had to go 1 meter deeper, which was the side of the yin spring. But from the 3 and 2 meters away, Yu Haoran knew that with his current physical body, it would be difficult for him to withstand the chill of the yin qi at the side of the yin spring. Chapter 230. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Let's go all out. After weighing the pros and cons, Yu Haoran finally decided to take the risk and give it a try. After all, the path of martial arts was all about moving forward bravely. Without a certain level of adventurous spirit, how could one have such heaven-defying gains? However, before taking the risk, he still needed to make some preparations. First, he took out a top-notch healing elixir from his storage ear, an elixir that could improve his fire attribute physique and body, and an elixir that could calm his chi and concentrate his mind. After everything was ready, Yuhaoran stood up. However, he did not take the risk to rush to the side of the Yin spring. Instead, he slowly moved forward 3 to 5 centimeters. Furthermore, with every 3 to 5 centimeters, he would absorb a few strands of Yin Qi. Firstly, it was to allow his body to adapt to the bone-piercing Yin Qi. Secondly, he hoped that the Yin Qi between 1 meter and the Yin spring would be able to purify the last strand of Yuan power. This way, he would not have to risk his life and continue to approach the Yin spring. However, the result was that the Yin Qi became heavier and heavier, making it harder for his body to bear. However, the last strand of Yuan power in his dantian did not show any signs of being purified. This forced him to continue approaching the Yin spring. When he was less than 10 centimeters away from the Yin spring, Yuhaoran had no choice but to stop. He realized that the Yin Qi in this place had already reached the limit of what he could bear. If he were to move forward another centimeter, he would be frostbitten by the Yin Qi. In a worst case, his consciousness might be frozen. However, at this point, the last strand of Yuan power in his dantian also showed signs of being purified. Take the risk to advance or retreat conservatively. These were the two paths in front of Yuhaoran. If he took the risk and succeeded, then all the Yuan power that was purified would allow his body and Yuan power to reach a perfect state in the martial warrior realm. A perfect state would not only allow him to break through to the martial master realm more perfectly, but it would also increase his chances of breaking through to different realms in the future. If he chose to retreat conservatively, although his life would not be in danger, he had a feeling that in the entire Blue Moon secret realm, there would not be an opportunity to purify the last strand of Yuan power in his dantian. After careful consideration, Yuhaoran finally decided to take the risk. Of course, in addition to the preparation of the pills, Yuhaoran directly separated a part of the Vajram monkey's blood essence and then held the dew as a wish rod in his hand. If he couldn't withstand the extreme cold, he would activate the wishful thinking rod at the last critical moment, allowing one end of the wishful thinking rod to reach Wu Jingjun and then let him pull him out. At that time, he would ask Thaling to find a way to unseal him. After he was fully prepared, Yuhaoran directly crossed the 10-centimeter distance and stood at the edge of the Yin spring. Just as his feet touched the ground, a cold Yin Qi that could freeze the world quickly attacked him. Without any hesitation, he swallowed the pill that he had placed in his mouth in advance. Then, he borrowed the power of the pill to resist most of the cold Yin Qi. At the same time, he made use of the small amount of cold Yin energy that he had intentionally leaked to begin purifying the last trace of origin energy in his dantian. The Yin Qi at the edge of the Yin spring was not only lower in temperature, it was also more effective in purifying elemental energy. In just a third of a second, the last trace of elemental energy in his dantian was completely purified. The moment the last trace of elemental energy in his dantian was completely purified, a strong dantian fire rose from within his dantian and quickly swallowed the cold Yin Qi that had just entered his dantian. After swallowing the cold Yin Qi in his dantian, an even stronger dantian fire left his dantian and began to devour the cold Yin Qi that had entered his body. Seeing that his elemental energy had reached a perfect state, not only did it form a dantian fire in advance, its power was also 10 times stronger than the dantian fire formed after he had broken through to the martial master realm in his previous life. More importantly, it could now devour even more powerful cold Yin Qi. Yuhaoran was overjoyed and couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. However, he didn't immediately put away the wishful thinking rod in his hand. Instead, he carefully observed the surroundings of the Yin spring. This was because when the dantian fire started to devour the cold Yin Qi, Yuhaoran had a vague feeling that something was being stolen. Hence, before he could confirm that it was truly safe, he had to reserve a way to counterattack. After searching back and forth 3 times, Yu Haoran didn't find any clues. He couldn't help but miss the Thowling Mountains and the power of the Thowling Mountains. However, this nostalgic thought flashed through his mind. Since he couldn't find the thief, Yu Haoran held the wishful thinking rod in his hand and slowly retreated. However, when he retreated less than a meter, he actually saw a worm the size of a grain of rice crawling on a blade of grass beside the Yin spring. If it wasn't for the fact that when he retreated, his line of sight happened to be in that position and his attention was focused on the Yin spring, it would have been difficult for him to discover the tiny blade of grass, much less the tiny worm crawling on it. The fact that the Dantian fire could devour the cold Yin Shi emitted by the Yin spring meant that the greatest threat to him from the Yin spring had disappeared. Thus, Yu Haoran held the wishful thinking rod, tightly and slowly approached the blade of grass, approaching the tiny worm on the blade of grass. At this moment, the Thowling in his knowledge suddenly let out a surprised cry. Thowling, what's wrong? Although the cold Yin Shi emitted by the Yin spring was no longer a fatal threat to him, after a few days of training in the secret realm, he discovered that the dangers of the Blue Moon secret realm were far greater than what he understood in his previous life. Thus, the sudden surprised cry from the Thowling directly gave him a fright. What a pity such a precious treasure is not suitable for you. Looking at the tiny worm on the blade of grass, the Thowling said with a face of pity, Thowling, speak clearly. Precious treasure, not suitable for him. The Thowling's pity evaluation just now made Yu Haoran even more eager to know the origins of the blade of grass and the tiny worm. Breaking out of the cocoon and becoming a butterfly, known as the Nine Heavens Supreme. Closing his eyes and letting out a long breath, the Thowling gave this evaluation. Thowling, could this tiny worm in front of me be one of the three supreme beasts of the Tianxian continent? The Nine Heavens cloud-colored butterfly that can flip mountains with one flap and overturn seas with one wave? Supreme was not a realm, but a title that stood at the pinnacle of Emperor Wu's realm. That's right, this worm is called the nine-legged worm. If you observe carefully, you will discover that not only does its body have 9 segments, it also has 9 limbs that it uses to walk, and even the antennae on its head has 9. The Thowling explained in detail. Bending down to observe carefully, he discovered that the tiny worm on the blade of grass was indeed as the Thowling described. Yu Haoran, don't get too close. Chapter 231. In the Blue Moon's secret realm, the 9-jointed worm, which was only the size of a grain of rice, was able to injure a martial king expert. After hearing Thowling's reminder, Yu Haoran hurriedly took a few steps back. After that, he asked in confusion, Thowling, regardless of whether it's the 9-legged worm or the 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly, they all belong to the category of exotic beasts. Then, why did you say that it's not suitable for me? Yu Haoran, regardless of whether it's the infant 9-legged worm or the mature 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly, they are all exotic beasts with no attributes. Thowling turned to look at Zhang Ro and continued to explain, exotic beasts with no attributes are between spiritual beasts and exotic beasts. Unless it's someone who is truly suitable for them and can sign a beast pet contract with them, it's impossible for anyone else to sign a beast pet contract with them. It's also a coincidence. Although the girl you've been helping just now has a fire attribute physique, the fire of desire formed by the soul hooking technique actually allowed her fire attribute physique to advance to the void physique. And the void physique is the most suitable person to sign a beast pet contract with a 9-legged worm. Hearing that Zhang Ro was the most suitable owner for the 9-legged worm or the 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly, Yu Haoran didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Fortunately, his strong mental state cultivation allowed him to quickly regain his calm state of mind. After that, he bent down and uprooted the stalk of grass, then carefully retreated to Zhang Ro. Yu Shixiang, what are you doing with a stalk of grass? Harmonizing the fire of desire was different from purifying the Dantian's origin energy. There was no need to fully concentrate on cultivation. Therefore, half of Zhang Ro's energy was on harmonizing the fire of desire, while the other half was on Yuhaoran. Rower, tell me the truth. How are you doing in the Heart Moon sect? Without answering Zhang Rou's question directly, Yuhaoran stared into Zhang Rou's eyes and asked with a sincere gaze. Facing Yuhaoran's sincere gaze, Zhang Rou couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Although Heart Moon sect had more female disciples, as a member of the Alliance of the Righteous Sects, the entire sect was still more formal and conservative. For a female disciple like her, who gave others a feeling of enchanting charm because she cultivated the art of seduction, not to mention being valued, it was common for her to be ostracized and suppressed everywhere. There was even one time when she was almost humiliated by a few core disciples. From the bottom of her heart, she hated the Heart Moon sect to the core. However, in the Heart Moon sect, there was a master who doted on her, loved her, pampered her, and trusted her. If it weren't for her master's existence, she probably wouldn't have been able to endure the experience of almost being humiliated. Yu Shi Xiang, my life in Heart Moon sect is very bitter, very difficult. Thinking of this, Zhang Rou raised her head and looked at Yuhaoran. Her eyes were filled with tenderness. Other than hatred, there was also endless warmth. If the heavens could give me great power, I would even want to destroy the Heart Moon sect. However, I can't leave the Heart Moon sect now. Because in the Heart Moon sect, there's a master who truly loves me, a master who treats me as his own, and a master who is willing to give up everything for me. Zhang Rou's kindness towards her master made Yuhaoran recall the seemingly indifferent Feng Qingyun who cared about his disciple more than anyone else. Phew! Taking a deep breath and suppressing the slightly fluctuating emotions in his heart, Yuhaoran reached out to help Zhang Rou up and said in a solemn tone, Rou, since you have a master in the Heart Moon sect, then I won't force you to leave the sect. However, I can also give you a guarantee. In the future, no matter what grievances you suffer in the Heart Moon sect, you must tell me. I will definitely seek justice for you, even if I have to destroy the entire Heart Moon sect. Yu Shi Xiang, thank you. While thanking Yuhaoran, Zhang Rou frowned and looked at Yuhaoran, because she couldn't figure out why Yuhaoran, who was originally fine, would suddenly be so concerned about her. She didn't believe that Yuhaoran would suddenly fall in love with her. There must be a reason that she didn't know. Rou, with the help of the cold Yin Shi in the Yin Spring, I have successfully purified the Yuan power in my Dantian. Therefore, Zheng Jun and I will be leaving this place. So fast. Although she already knew that Yuhaoran wouldn't stay here for long, she didn't expect it to be so fast. That's right. In the depths of the secret realm, there's a treasure that is very important to me. I need to fight for it with Zheng Jun, so we can't delay for too long. Nodding his head, Yuhaoran explained the reason why he had to leave. He raised his head to look at the mountain peak and continued. This place is already considered the inner area of the Blue Moon secret realm. Not only are the strange beasts that roam about powerful, but those who enter the inner area of the secret realm all have ulterior motives. Therefore, before we leave, we must ensure your safety. Ensure her safety? Zhang Rou looked at Yuhaoran with great interest. She didn't know what method he would use to ensure her safety. Rou, do you know much about the strange beasts in the Tianxian continent? The 9 heaven cloud butterfly, known as one of the 3 supreme beasts, was probably the pet beast that all the warriors in the Tianxian continent wanted the most. Although Zhang Rou was the most suitable owner for the 9-legged worm due to her physique, if it wasn't for him, she would have missed this heaven-defying opportunity. Therefore, Yuhaoran hoped that Zhang Rou would know the value of the 9-legged worm and know everything that he had done for her. I don't know much about it. Shaking her head, Zhang Rou said helplessly. Then, do you know about the 9 heaven cloud butterfly? Zhang Rou's answer wasn't out of Yuhaoran's expectations, so he asked further. Yu Shi Xiang, could it be that the 9 heaven cloud butterfly, known as one of the 3 supreme beasts, has the power to overturn rivers and seas and destroy the world? Zhang Rou asked excitedly. That's right. Nodding, Yuhaoran revealed a happy smile. Since Zhang Rou understood the value of the 9 heaven cloud butterfly, he didn't need to waste his breath explaining. Therefore, He turned the grass in his hand and pointed at the worm that was only the size of a grain of rice. Zhang Ro, look at this. It was just a small worm on the grass. Zhang Ro was very confused by Yu Haoran's actions, but when she saw the worm's 9 segments and 9 soft tentacles, she took a few steps back in shock. Then, she pointed at the worm on the grass and said in a trembling voice, Yu Shi Xiao, could this be the infant 9-legged worm of the 9-heaven cloud butterfly before it pupates? To be able to recognize the origin of the 9-legged worm at a glance, Yu Haoran was rather shocked by Zhang Ro's knowledge and experience. However, now wasn't the time to question her experience. Yu Haoran nodded and said, That's right, this is the infant 9-heaven cloud butterfly before it pupates. Don't be fooled by this 9-legged worm. Its current strength is enough to threaten a martial king expert. Chapter 232. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Yu Shi Xiao, you mean that you want me to sign a beast pet contract with this 9-heavens clouded butterfly that could become a paragon in the future? Zhang Ro asked in disbelief. What was a paragon? They were the top 3 exotic beasts among the exotic beasts. In the future, they could surpass most of the divine beasts. Even if the 9-legged worm needed a long time to evolve into a 9-heavens clouded butterfly, as long as one had the 9-legged worm, one would have the hope of becoming a peerless expert in the future. Furthermore, even if the 9-legged worm had truly matured, its grade and strength would reach the peak of the 4th rank, which was the peak of the martial saint realm. In the Tianxin continent, where Emperor Wu was unable to become a martial saint, the peak of the martial saint realm was someone who could determine the true direction of the continent. Therefore, Zhang Ro's first reaction was disbelief when she saw that Yu Haoran was actually giving such a precious exotic beast to her. Of course I'm giving it to you. Otherwise, why would I show it to you? Don't I know the principle of not showing off one's wealth? Yu Haoran said with an indifferent expression as he stuffed the grass and the 9-legged worm into Zhang Ro's hands. After that, he slapped his forehead and asked, All right, Roer, do you know how to sign a beast pet contract with an exotic beast? Yu Shi Xiao, the first lesson of becoming a disciple of the Heart Moon sect is to learn how to sign a beast pet contract with an exotic beast. Zhang Ro said foolishly as she held the grass tightly. All right, since you know how to sign a beast pet contract, then take advantage of the fact that the 9-legged worm is still in its infancy and before its intelligence has fully matured, quickly sign the beast pet contract with it. After indicating for Zhang Ro to quickly sign the contract with a 9-legged worm, Yu Haoran turned and walked towards Wu Xinjun. There were 2 reasons why he didn't observe the signing of the beast pet contract on the spot. Firstly, he didn't want Zhang Ro to feel nervous. Secondly, he didn't want to make himself feel uncomfortable. Although he didn't seem to care when he gave the 9-legged worm to Zhang Ro, he felt sour in his heart. After all, the 9-heavens clouded butterfly was a unique existence that could become a paragon in the future. It was the emperor in the hearts of all exotic beasts. Possessing the 9th heaven cloud color butterfly represented the hope of becoming the top elite warrior in the profound skyland. To prevent himself from feeling too jealous, he had no choice but to avoid observing the process of Zhang Ro signing a contract with a 9-legged worm. Seeing that Wu Xingjun was sitting cross-legged 3 meters away from the Yin Spring, which was the position he had chosen from the start, he knew that Wu Xingjun was at the crucial moment of purifying his elemental energy. Therefore, Yu Haoran just stood there quietly and did not disturb him. Yu Haoran, there's actually another type of exotic beast in this world that's very suitable to become your pet beast. Thowling had noticed Yu Haoran's reluctance to part with the 9-legged worm. He too knew how important a good pet beast was to a warrior. Therefore, he had been thinking about which exotic beast was worthy of Yu Haoran. However, exotic beasts that could compare to the 9 heavens clouded butterfly were too rare. Only a few powerful exotic beasts appeared in his mind one by one. Finally, he found one that didn't lose out to the 9 heavens clouded butterfly. Thowling, the exotic beast you're talking about can't be the skybreaker ape with the bloodline of the apocalyptic divine ape, right? For Thowling to mention an exotic beast at this time, It must be a paragon beast that didn't lose out to the nine heavens clouded butterfly. According to his own attributes and characteristics, only that exotic beast was suitable for him. Therefore, Yuhauran directly pointed out the origin of that exotic beast. That's right, Thowling replied, nodding. It's the sky breaker ape with the strongest attack power among the three paragon beasts. It's too late, Yuhauran said, shaking his head. What do you mean? Could it be that you've seen the sky breaker ape in your previous life? Yuhauran's reply puzzled Thowling at first. However, when he thought about how Yuhauran had come into contact with Pallas in his previous life, he immediately understood the crux of the problem. That's right, Yuhauran said calmly, nodding. If you want to sign a pet contract with an exotic beast, you either have to do it while the exotic beast is still in its infancy, and its intelligence is still not fully developed, or you have to rely on your powerful strength to beat the exotic beast into submission, forcing it to accept the pet contract. The Sky Breaker ape you mentioned earlier is not only an adult, but it's also around rank 4. The last time he met Pallas was when he fought the Sky Breaker ape. The result of that battle was Pallas' defeat. It was because of that defeat that Pallas chose to break through to the martial Venerable realm, hoping to further integrate the inheritance of the three bloodlines by controlling the three different types of laws. What a pity. Thowling couldn't help but shake his head at Yuhauran's explanation. He also temporarily gave up on the idea of choosing a suitable exotic beast for Yuhauran. Just as Yuhauran was waiting for Wu Jingjun to purify the origin energy in his dantian, a wave of energy suddenly came from behind him, attracting his attention. However, he didn't turn around to look. That was because he knew that the wave of energy earlier was because Zhang Ro had successfully signed a pet contract with the nine-legged worm. Moreover, that wave of energy was like a signal. The moment the wave of energy disappeared, Wu Jingjun, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. Although he couldn't see Wu Zhongjun's expression because his back was facing him, Yuhauran knew that he had successfully purified the origin energy in his dantian from the wave of energy that flashed past his body. However, judging from the position where Wu Zhongjun had purified the origin energy in his dantian with the help of the Yin Spring's cold qi, although the bloodthirsty body and perfect physical body allowed the origin energy in his dantian to surpass that of an ordinary warrior, there was still a certain gap between it and the origin energy in his dantian. Yu Xiao, turning his head to see Yuhauran standing behind him, Wu Zhongjun knew that he had finished purifying his origin energy. Although Yuhauran's position in purifying origin energy was much better than his, Wu Zhongjun wasn't jealous at all. Tell Zhang Ro that we have to hurry to the grade 9 spirit vein that Zhao Zong mentioned. After reminding Zhang Ro, Yuhauran turned and walked toward Zhang Ro, who was conversing with a nine-legged worm. Ro, Zhengjun and I have already purified the origin energy in our dantian. Next, we will leave this place and continue to venture deeper into the secret realm. Yu Xiao, can't you stay for a while longer? Hearing that Yuhauran and Wu Zhengjun were about to leave, Zhang Ro quickly ended her conversation with a nine-legged worm. Then, with tender feelings and reluctance, she begged them. There is an opportunity in the depths of the secret realm that belongs to me. I can't delay it any longer. Yuhauran couldn't help but promise when he saw Zhang Ro's mood instantly fall. Of course, if we can obtain that opportunity and have enough time, Zhengjun and I will try our best to return here before the secret realm closes. Then, we will leave the Blue Moon secret realm together. Yu Xiao, I will wait for you. Zhang Ro happily nodded her head and said with anticipation, Ro, if you don't encounter any fatal danger, try not to wake the nine-legged worm. This is because the nine-legged worm needs a large amount of sleep to evolve into a nine-heaven cloud-colored butterfly. It uses it to refine its body and absorb the energy from the nine-heaven void. Yu Xiao, I understand. Nodding her head, Zhang Ro indicated that she would remember it. Chapter 233. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Zhang Ro said softly as she watched Yuhauran leave the Yin Spring and the mountain peak. Baby, it looks like I have to hurry up and cultivate. Although I don't expect to surpass Yu Shi Xiang in terms of cultivation, I can't let Yu Shi Xiang pull too far ahead of me. Otherwise, I will feel that I'm not worthy of him. The nine-legged worm, lying in Zhang Rou's palm, gently rubbed against her palm, indicating that she need not worry. Let's not think about it anymore. I should use the yin qi to temper the flames of desire as soon as possible. Then, I will follow Yu Shi Xiang's instructions and purify the yuan power in my dantian to increase my strength and potential. Putting away her complicated feelings, Zhang Rou smiled cheerfully and walked directly towards the yin spring. Originally, the yin qi that could threaten Yu Haoran no longer emitted a bone-piercing chill when Zhang Rou approached the yin spring. Instead, it automatically parted like an obedient baby, allowing her to approach the yin spring. When she started to absorb the yin qi that was like an obedient baby was willing to be absorbed by her and refined by her. Yu Shi Xiang, do you think something happened in front? Looking at the three elite disciples from the 100 Qi Gate Xingyan Peak who had just escaped, Wu Jingjun could not help but ask in confusion. Perhaps it was because the bloodthirsty physique had been activated to 99%, or perhaps it was because the yuan power in his dantian had been completely purified. But Wu Jingjun, who was originally only at the initial stage of the martial arts technique, had unknowingly entered the advanced stage. Although it was only at the initial stage of the advanced stage of the martial arts technique, his speed had increased by at least 5 to 6 times. Therefore, Yu Haoran did not need to continue leading him forward. Not long after leaving the yin spring, Yu Haoran and Wu Jingjun gradually discovered a strange phenomenon. That was, many of the elite disciples who had entered the depths of the secret realm in advance were all fleeing towards the outskirts of the secret realm in a panic. Although he had blocked a few people during this period, these people were extremely frightened and their minds were not very clear. They could not tell what had happened in front of them. Only 2 words were left: exotic beasts and death. If we want to know what's happening up ahead, we have to speed up and take a look. Yu Haoran warned when he saw a peak 9th grade martial master disciple with an aura of a peak 1st grade martial master hurriedly running towards the outskirts of the secret realm. Go! Then, Yu Haoran and Wu Jingjun burst out with their fastest speed and continued to rush to the place where the accident occurred. Yu Shi Xiang, I found the unconscious Lai Yun. After sprinting for dozens of miles, Wu Jingjun, whose movement technique had just reached the great perfection realm, was still not used to such a fast speed. Therefore, he decided to stop for a while and adjust his breathing before continuing to run. However, the moment he stopped, he unexpectedly saw a familiar disciple dressed in the uniform of the 100 Qi Gate lying on the grass, not far away. Perhaps due to curiosity, Wu Jingjun moved closer and saw the appearance of the 100 Qi Gate disciple. When he saw that the unconscious disciple was Lai Yun, who had a conflict with Yu Haoran a few days ago in the valley because of the scarlet fruit, he could not help but shout to Yu Haoran, who had already run far away. Lai Yun. Hearing that Wu Jingjun had found the unconscious Lai Yun, Yu Haoran quickly turned around and rushed to Wu Jingjun's side. Seeing the unconscious Lai Yun, Yu Haoran reached out and pressed on his wrist artery. After a careful examination, he realized that his current situation was very bad. Not only was the elemental energy in his dantian rampaging, but his internal organs were also severely injured. Without any hesitation, Yu Haoran took out a top-notch healing elixir and used it to treat the injuries to his internal organs. At the same time, he used his perfect elemental energy to calm the rampaging elemental energy in his body. After nearly 10 minutes of treatment, the rampaging elemental energy in Lai Yun's body gradually calmed down. Under the treatment of the top-notch healing elixir, his severely injured internal organs also began to slowly recover. Wait for a while, he will wake up, Yu Haoran said as he retracted his left hand that was releasing elemental energy. Since his life was not in danger, he could only wait patiently. Less than 5 minutes later, Lai Yun gradually opened his eyes as he regained consciousness. When he saw Yu Haoran and Wu Jingjun standing in front of him, He knew that he was still alive because of Yu Haoran's help. Therefore, Lai Yun endured the heavy injuries on his body and thanked Yu Haoran as he struggled to sit up. Yu Xixiang, senior brother Wu, thank you for saving my life. Yu Haoran reminded Lai Yun as he reached out to stop him from getting up. Lai Yun, you haven't recovered from your injuries yet. You shouldn't move around, so you'd better lie down first. When Lai Yun lay down on the grass again, Yu Haoran asked in confusion, Lai Yun, what kind of danger did you encounter that caused you to suffer such severe injuries? As a core disciple of the Flame Branch, Lai Yun was not only powerful, but he also possessed a King Stage celestial device that could be activated without the use of his divine soul. To be able to destroy the defense of a King Stage celestial device and directly injure his internal organs, it meant that the attack he encountered was very powerful. Yu Xixiang, do you know that there's a level 9 upper spirit vein in the depths of the secret realm? Lai Yun did not explain the reason for the attack for the time being and asked about the spirit vein first. I've heard of it. Nodding, Yu Haoran indicated that he knew. Yu Xixiang, among the disciples who entered the Blue Moon secret realm this time, apart from the tasks assigned by the elders of the sect, the true goal of most of the elite and core disciples is this level 9 upper spirit vein. Seeing that Yu Haoran knew about the secret of the spirit vein in the depths of the secret realm, Lai Yun closed his eyes and rested for a while before explaining in detail. High-grade level 9 spirit veins are mostly level 10 and level 9 spirit stones. Even because of the uniqueness of the Blue Moon secret realm, it can only produce level 7 spirit stones at most. After hearing that the ultimate goal of most of the elite and core disciples of the sect was the level 9 upper spirit vein in the depths of the secret realm, Yu Haoran asked in puzzlement. For a core disciple of a sect like you, not to mention level 8 and level 9 spirit stones, even level 6 spirit stones are not impossible to obtain. Logically speaking, a mere level 9 upper spirit vein is not worth the risk for you to mobilize so many people. Could it be that there are other treasures in this level 9 upper spirit vein? Nodding, Lai Yun explained, Yu Xixiang is right. Although spirit stones are precious to us core disciples, it is not worth it for us to give up the top elixirs in the entire secret realm for a mere level 9 upper spirit vein. Because in the depths of the spirit vein, there is a heavenly winged tiger that has just been born and lost its mother. Chapter 234. Within the Blue Moon secret realm, the heavenly winged tiger that possesses the bloodlines of the divine beasts, White Tiger and Fire Phoenix. Yu Haoran stood up in shock when he heard that the heavenly winged tiger possessed the bloodlines of 2 top divine beasts in the depths of the spirit vein. If the 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly was one of the 3 supreme beasts, then the heavenly winged tiger that possessed the bloodlines of the White Tiger and Fire Phoenix was the king of supreme beasts that surpassed supreme beasts. However, what puzzled Yu Haoran was that although he had never entered the depths of the secret realm in his previous life, he had inquired about some interesting things that happened in the secret realm from others in the designated safe zone of the sect. For example, the top spirit herbs that he knew of, he had accidentally learned about them through secret inquiries. However, for a supreme beast king like the heavenly winged tiger that could shake the entire profound sky continent, not a single bit of information was leaked. This was obviously abnormal. At this moment, Yu Haoran was not in a hurry to find the spirit vein. Instead, he wanted to understand everything before making a decision. Lai Yun, have you seen the heavenly winged tiger in the depths of the spirit vein? Shaking his head, Lai Yun's face revealed a trace of fear. Right after our 100 Chi sect, Ancient Town sect, Heart Moon sect, and Meteor sect sent over 300 peak 9th grade martial warrior disciples into the spirit vein, before we could even find the whereabouts of the heaven-winged tiger, countless strange beasts suddenly rushed out from the depths of the spirit vein. Not only were these strange beasts powerful, they were also not afraid of death. In just the first confrontation, we lost more than half of our people. If it wasn't for my decent strength and the fact that I had a defensive artifact, it would have been difficult for me to break out of the encirclement. Strange beasts of different races did not gather together. It was already good enough that they did not kill each other when they met. Being able to move together meant that there was definitely someone controlling the strange beasts behind this attack. However, he did not know if the person controlling the strange beasts was a person or something else. However, from this point, it could be seen that the news of the heavenly winged tiger in the depths of the spirit vein was a conspiracy. A conspiracy that targeted all the elite disciples that entered the Blue Moon secret realm. If he wanted to know the mastermind behind this conspiracy, he had to start investigating from a source. Lai Yun, when and where did you find the news of the heavenly winged tiger in the depths of the spirit vein? Before entering the Blue Moon secret realm, Zhao Zong from the Sect Masters faction told me personally. When he mentioned the name Zhao Zong, Lai Yun gritted his teeth. Although he had considered the dangers in the depths of the secret territory, he had left some of his juniors who were not at the peak of 9th grade martial warrior in the safe zone. However, the number of juniors who were at the peak of 9th grade martial warrior that followed him into the spirit vein had reached 10. Furthermore, these 10 people were all elite disciples of the secondary sect. They were all top geniuses who could become martial kings in the future. However, the 10 elite disciples were completely blasted into minced meat in the first wave of attacks from the exotic beasts. He didn't know how he was going to explain this to his uncle. Lai sect. The news that there was a newly born heaven-winged tiger in the depths of the spirit vein, and that there was no mother tiger protecting, it was actually leaked by Zhao Zhuangjian. After hearing the news from Lai Yun, Yu Haoran was extremely shocked. Moreover, according to Lai Yun, Zhao Zong had not only revealed the news to him, but also to the Ancient Town sect, Heart Moon sect, and Meteor sect. This made Yu Haoran suspect Zhao Zong's identity for the first time. No matter how deeply trusted Zhao Zong was by Sect Master Zhao Zong, no matter how good he was at scheming, it was impossible for Zhao Zong's ability and strength to control the strange beasts in the depths of the secret realm. Either there was an expert behind Zhao Zong, or this Zhao Zong wasn't the Zhao Zong he knew. However, considering that he had captured Zhao Zong a few days ago, he had a better understanding of his situation. Yu Haoran felt that the scheme targeting the elite disciples was done by the expert behind Zhao Zong. It was similar to the source of the poison in the Red Rocks. If he wanted to find out the mastermind behind the scheme, he had to enter the spirit vein. And once he entered the spirit vein, he would have to face countless strange beasts. Therefore, Yu Haoran needed to know the strength of those strange beasts in advance and see if there were any that could threaten him. Lai Yun, among the strange beasts charging at you, what's the strongest one's rank? Yu Shixiang, although those strange beasts are strong, they are limited by the rules of the secret realm. Most of them can only display the strength of the 1st to 3rd rank of the 8th level. However, there are too many strange beasts gathered in the spirit vein. No matter how strong you are, you won't be a match for those strange beasts. Thinking of the countless strange beasts charging at them like an avalanche, Lai Yun still felt extremely fearful. Most of them were only around the 1st to 3rd rank of the 8th level. After hearing Lai Yun's explanation of the strange beast strength, Yu Haoran decided to enter the spirit vein to check it out. However, considering the methods of the mastermind behind the scheme, he felt that it would be faster and safer to act alone. Therefore, after much consideration, Yu Haoran instructed Wu Zhengjun, Zhengjun, accompany Lai Yun to the safe zone designated by the sect to recuperate. Then, stay there and wait for me to return. Yu Shixiao no. Although Yu Haoran didn't say what he was going to do next, Wu Zhengjun had already guessed his thoughts from his conversation with Lai Yun earlier. When he thought about how hundreds of elite disciples who had reached the martial master realm were unable to withstand the first wave of strange beast attack, how could he agree to Yu Haoran taking the risk alone? Zhengjun, you and I have known each other for quite some time. When have you ever seen me joke about my own life? Knowing that Wu Zhengjun would definitely not agree to take the risk, Yu Haoran, who was already prepared, advised him patiently. Furthermore, I'm not entering the spirit vein to look for the heaven-winged tiger this time. I only want to investigate the ins and outs of this matter. I will definitely not cross swords with the mastermind behind the scheme. Seeing Wu Jingjun open his mouth to refute, Yu Haoran raised his hand to signal him not to speak and continued speaking. Jingjun, I have a very strong feeling in my heart that this trial in the Blue Moon Secret Realm is actually a trap. A trap that targets all the disciples who enter the secret realm for trial. If I don't find out the motive of the mastermind behind the scheme, I'm afraid that both of us might die in this secret realm. Yu Shixiang, why won't you let me accompany you? Following Yu Haoran's in-depth explanation, Wu Zhengjun gradually realized the seriousness of the problem. However, the only thing that he couldn't accept was why Yu Haoran didn't bring him along on the adventure. Glancing at Wu Zhengjun, Yu Haoran wasn't afraid of hurting Wu Zhengjun's self-esteem as he said, "Speed and control of your own aura. This." Chapter 235. Inside the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Wu Zhengjun didn't know how to refute Yu Haoran's reason for refusing to follow. After all, he knew that his speed was his weakness. Furthermore, the bloodthirsty physique was like a bright lamp in the dark for exotic beasts. Speed and concealment were the most important in this kind of secret investigation. If he followed, not only would he not be able to help Yu Shixiang, he might even drag him down. Therefore, he couldn't refuse, nor could he refuse. Zhengjun, I've changed my mind. Just as Wu Zhengjun was forcing himself to accept the fact that they were temporarily separated, Yu Haoran suddenly said that he had changed his mind. He couldn't help but feel happy about it. Yu Shixiang, are you planning to bring me along? Wu Zhengjun looked at Yu Haoran expectantly. He hoped that Yu Haoran would give him the answer he was looking forward to. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran said, "No. According to my judgment, although Zhao Zong can't be the mastermind behind the scheme, he is definitely the mastermind assistant. If my guess is correct, the mastermind wants to capture all the disciples who entered the Blue Moon Secret Realm in one fell swoop. Then he will definitely not let go of the disciples who stayed in the safe area. With your strength and the conflict between the four sects, I'm afraid that it will be difficult to escape from Zhao Zong's scheme. Therefore, I request that you bring Lai Yun to the Yin Spring Mountain to find junior sister Zhongro. With a contracted exotic beast, she will definitely be able to protect your safety until I return." Thinking about how Zhao Zong used his weakness to make Gong's son Yiming submit. Thinking about how Zhao Zong used 3 pieces of information that seemed important but were actually a trap within a trap to gain his trust and easily exchange for his life. Thinking about how Zhao Zong had set up a killing trap for the elite disciples. Yu Haoran was worried that Zhao Zong's next target might be the disciples who stayed in the safe area. Therefore, Yu Haoran was worried about letting Wu Zhengjun and Lai Yun return to the sect's designated safe area. Yes, I got it. One was the outer area of the secret realm, which was designated as a safe zone by the sect. It was thousands of kilometers away from the spirit vein. One was located in the inner area of the secret realm, less than 1,000 miles away from the spirit vein. It could support Yu Haoran at any time. Wu Zhengjun was barely able to accept Yu Haoran's orders. Thinking about how some time had passed since Lai Yun and the others were surrounded by the mutated beasts, Yu Haoran was worried that the mastermind behind this had already left. He signaled Wu Zhengjun to quickly bring Lai Yun to the Yin Spring Mountain. He directly used the speed of the peak of the Greater Success Realm and rushed toward the upper rank, 9 spiritual vein in the depths of the secret realm. The upper level 9 spiritual vein in the depths of the secret realm was not too far away from the Yin Spring Mountain. It was only about 600 miles away. Therefore, after separating from Wu Zhengjun and Lai Yun, Yu Haoran only spent 10 minutes to reach the entrance of the spiritual vein. Looking at the endless spiritual vein in front of him, Yu Haoran did not rush in rashly. Instead, he adjusted his breath on the spot for a while. Yu Haoran, this spiritual vein is not simple. I don't think it is an ordinary upper level 9 spiritual vein. Just as Yu Haoran was adjusting his breath on the spot, Thaling, who had been using the excuse of refining his natal instrument to avoid Yuhauran from asking about the demon-sealing secret realm, suddenly said in a serious tone. Yuhauran, who wasn't surprised by the tower spirit's grave tone, replied nonchalantly, "The 9 leaps of the dragon. This spirit vein before us is definitely not simple." "No, Yuhauran, you've misunderstood. What I meant was that the spirit vein in front of you is not of the upper tier 9 grade. It's very likely that it's a peak upper tier 5 grade spirit vein." Seeing that Yuhauran had misunderstood it, the tower spirit hurriedly explained. "What? Upper level 5 spiritual vein? Are you sure?" Yuhauran asked in disbelief. 99% of the spiritual veins in the Tianxian continent were monopolized by the sects, empires, and inherited families. As a result, ordinary forces had not even seen spiritual stones, let alone spiritual veins. However, even the 7 top sects only had 3 to 5 lower-level 5 spiritual veins and 1 to 2 middle-level 5 spiritual veins. As for upper-level 5 spiritual veins, according to Yuhauran's knowledge, only the number 1 inherited family in the Tianxian continent had one. As for the endless spirit vein in front of him, it was possible that it was a high-grade stage 5 spirit vein. The tower spirit's deduction shocked Yuhauran, and he found it hard to believe. "I'm 80% sure." Although he could not use his divine sense to check, with his rich experience and insight, 80% was already Thaling's most conservative estimate. Yuhauran, if it's an upper-level 5 spiritual vein, then there must be a large number of level 4 spiritual stones in the deepest part of the vein. The core area may even have level 4 spiritual stones, or even level 3 spiritual stones of the 1st grade. At this point, Thaling reminded him excitedly, "So when you're looking for the mastermind, you'd better pay attention to the spiritual vein. If you can get a level 4 spiritual stone of the 9th grade, you can break through the 3 realms of Martial Ancestor, Martial King, and Martial Emperor within 5 years, under the condition that you continue to strengthen your foundation. If you can get a level 3 spiritual stone, even if it's only level 3 spiritual stone of the 1st grade, then within 5 years, not only will you be able to break through the 3 realms of Martial Ancestor, Martial King, and Martial Emperor, but you'll also have a 70% chance of comprehending the power of law and breaking through to the Martial Saint realm." Of course, the reason why Thaling was so excited was because a level 3 spiritual stone of the 3rd grade or above was also very effective in healing the injuries of his body. Victor. Let's leave it to fate. How could Yuhauran not know about the heaven-defying effects of a level 4 spiritual stone of the upper grade or above? However, whether or not the spiritual vein in front of him with a level 5 spiritual stone of the upper grade was only Thaling's speculation. Even if the spiritual vein in front of him was a level 5 spiritual stone of the upper grade, it was unlikely that he would be able to find one under the watchful eyes of the mastermind behind the scenes. Therefore, Yuhauran did not have high expectations about whether he could get a level 4 spiritual stone of the upper grade or above in the following operation. He just wanted to leave it to fate. After more than 10 minutes of meditation, whether it was Yuan Li mental energy or physical strength, they were all in peak condition. Taking a deep breath, Yuhauran retracted his aura and stepped into the spiritual vein. Because he was worried that he would attract the attention of the mastermind behind the scenes, Yuhauran did not use any footwork techniques. He only used his feet to step into the spiritual vein. 10 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters. As he continued to go deeper into the spiritual vein, Yuhauran gradually discovered a strange phenomenon. That was, he had already gone more than 50 meters into the spiritual vein. Not only had he not been attacked by a single mutated beast, but he had also not seen a single human warrior's corpse. According to Lai Yun, when they had just entered the spiritual vein, they had been besieged by mutated beasts. In the first wave of attacks, more than 200 elite disciples had died under the claws of mutated beasts. Although mutated beasts had the habit of eating human warriors' corpses, they had a certain level of intelligence and would not eat the clothes and accessories of human warriors. Chapter 236. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Inside the Spirit Vein. Just as Yuhauran was wondering where the corpses of the elite disciples had gone, Thaling in his sea of consciousness suddenly exclaimed in surprise. "Thaling, what did you find?" Yuhauran thought that Thaling had discovered a strange phenomenon to be able to exclaim in surprise at this time. So he quickly asked, "Yuhauran, it seems that my initial conjecture was wrong. Not only is this spirit vein of the 5th rank upper grade, its environment is also similar to the Red Rocks. It can offset a part of the Blue Moon's Secret Realm's rules. Now, I can use a part of my divine sense again." Thaling was both happy and worried as he spoke. Nodding his head, Yuhauran could understand the reason for the worry in Thaling's tone. Although it should be a happy thing to be able to use divine telekinesis, it was just as the Tower Spirit was worried. Just like the Red Rocks, it could offset part of the rules of the Secret Realm. This meant that there must be a terrifying exotic beast like the Scarlet Loathe or the source of the poison in this spirit vein. And Yuhauran couldn't be as lucky as he was in the Red Rocks every time. He couldn't be familiar with and understand Palace's character and deal with him in advance. Thaling, how far can your divine sense extend? However, being worried was one thing. Since he had already encountered it, he just had to think of a way to deal with it. Therefore, Yuhauran put away his worries and began to use the benefits of offsetting the Secret Realm's rules. It seems that the exotic beast in the spirit vein is far weaker than the palace and the poison source in the Red Rocks. Its ability to offset the rules of the Secret Realm is limited. My divine sense can only extend to less than 1 kilometer. Thaling replied after extending his divine sense to the limit and confirming the final distance. After hearing Thaling's reply, Yuhauran nodded his head. He then closed his eyes and began to mobilize the Vajra monkey's blood essence in his meridians to see if he could activate the Vajra monkey's blood essence. If he could use the transformation technique in the spirit vein, his chances of success and survival would be much higher, be it searching for the mastermind behind the scenes or dealing with terrifying mutated beasts. Unfortunately, when the Vajra monkey's blood essence fused into his meridians and was about to transform, an aura that contained a fatal danger surged into his heart. Yuhauran hurriedly dispersed the Vajra monkey's blood essence. He knew that this dangerous aura came from the mystic realm's laws. In other words, although this spirit vein could allow Thaling to use his divine sense, it could not allow him to use his transformation secret technique. Shaking his head vigorously, Yuhauran threw out the depressing feeling of not being able to use the transformation secret technique out of his mind. He adjusted his mood and instructed, "Thaling, use your divine sense to the limit and help me pay attention to the surroundings. Don't worry." Thaling signaled Yuhauran to be at ease. With Thaling's divine sense monitoring him, Yuhauran did not need to deliberately conceal his aura, nor did he need to cautiously venture deeper. Although he did not use any footwork martial arts, with the assistance of Yuan Li, his speed was very fast. It was not until he was about 3,000 meters into the spirit vein that Yuhauran encountered the first exotic beast after entering the spirit vein. Although the first exotic beast he encountered was at the peak of the 9th rank of the 9th rank, its strength was very ordinary. He did not spend too much time, nor did he cause any commotion. With his powerful strength and speed, he easily dealt with the exotic beast. Subsequently, Yuhauran used the secret devouring technique and began to devour and transform the exotic beast's flesh and blood. He wanted to see if the energy converted from the exotic beast's flesh and blood in the spirit vein was different from the exotic beast's flesh and blood in the spirit vein. After the energy from the exotic beast's flesh and blood entered his dantian, Yuhauran could not help but frown. This was because he discovered that although the exotic beast he had just devoured and transformed was about the same level and strength as the exotic beast's flesh and blood in the spirit vein, the energy contained in this exotic beast's flesh and blood was several times that of the exotic beast's flesh and blood in the spirit vein. This situation could only mean one thing. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the spirit vein was not only denser, but also purer than the spiritual chi in the spirit vein. Throwing away the exotic beast's corpse in his hand, Yuhauran continued to venture deeper into the spirit vein under the guidance of Thaling. In the following period of time, he would encounter 1 or 2 exotic beasts with ordinary strength every 1 or 200 meters. Yuhauran, did you notice a strange phenomenon? Thaling, who had been using his divine sense to check the surroundings when they were close to 5,000 meters into the spirit vein, could not help but remind him. I noticed it long ago. Yuhauran nodded and said with a grave expression, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in this spirit vein is more than 10 times that of the spirit vein in the spirit vein outside the spirit vein, and its purity is also several times higher. In an environment with such dense and pure spiritual chi, a 9th rank exotic beast strength should not be so weak. Back then, Lai Yin once said that when they first entered the spirit vein, they were attacked by countless exotic beasts, and the attacking exotic beasts were generally between the 1st and 3rd rank of the 8th rank. So, I suspect that those powerful exotic beasts have already left the spirit vein. It's very likely that they went to chase after those elite disciples who escaped, or, under someone's lead, they went to surround and kill the disciples in the safe zone. Your speculation is correct, but that is not what I mean. Thaling nodded in agreement with Yuhauran's speculation, but his tone changed as he spoke of the strange phenomenon he had discovered. Yuhauran, you and I have ventured more than 5,000 meters into the spirit vein. According to the pattern of spirit stones condensed in the upper 5th rank spirit vein, under normal circumstances, we should be able to find at least 7th rank or even 6th rank spirit stones. But until now, let alone 6th rank or 7th rank spirit stones, we have not even seen the shadow of a 10th rank or 10th rank spirit stone. Therefore, I have a suspicion in my heart. Speak. Seeing Thaling hesitating to speak, Yuhauran knew that his suspicion was probably not a good thing. However, in the face of such a strange spirit vein, a bad thing could also become a good thing. I suspect that this upper 5th rank spirit vein is alive. After thinking about it again and again, Thaling finally revealed the suspicion in his heart. Alive. Stopping his footsteps, Yuhauran asked in confusion. Although he had the experience of exploring ruins countless times in his previous life, allowing him to know many secrets that even martial honorables did not know, he had never heard of a living spirit vein before. Yuhauran, when you were roaming the Tianxin continent in your previous life, have you seen or heard of a spirit vein above the 4th rank? Seeing Yuhauran frown, Thaling finally felt a sense of superiority in his heart. This was because ever since he had entered the Blue Moon's secret realm, Thaling realized that his countless years of experience seemed to have suddenly lost its effectiveness. Yuhauran's knowledge and familiarity with spirit herbs and strange beasts far exceeded his own. This made Thaling feel even more depressed and embarrassed at the same time. This was also one of the reasons why he would rather refine his natal instrument than communicate with Yuhauran. Now, because of the secret of the upper 5th rank spirit vein, he had once again revealed his superior experience over Yuhauran. How could he not feel happy? I've never heard of it before. Shaking his head, Yuhauran said. Chapter 237. Inside the Blue Moon's secret realm, inside the spirit vein. Yuhauran, the grade of the spirit vein, is the same as the realm of the martial artist. Although the Tianxian continent's environment was greatly damaged due to the destruction of the heaven and earth in the recent ancient times, making it difficult for the Emperor realm to break through and the honorable realm experts temporarily live in seclusion. No matter what, the honorable realm and the Emperor realm experts really exist. Then, where did the rank 4 spirit veins that exist like the honorable realm and the Emperor realm experts go? Thaling asked. Continue. Shaking his head, Yuhauran signaled Thaling to continue his explanation. Actually, if the spirit vein can advance to the rank 4, then the spirit vein itself will form intelligence and through cultivation become a kind of living creature between heaven and earth, a kind of spiritual beast similar to the empty spirit mouse. Thaling, What you mean is that the spirit vein can also cultivate and can also become honorable realm, emperor realm, and have the possibility of advancing to the god realm in the future. Yu Haoran asked in shock. There was a legend in the Tianxian continent that said that all living things in the world could cultivate and any living creature could become a god. But in everyone's consciousness, all living things in the world referred to living creatures like humans and strange beasts with their own consciousness. It did not include things without consciousness like the spirit vein and rocks. That's right. Thowling nodded and said with a sigh. Although the process of the spirit vein developing intelligence is very difficult, as long as it can develop intelligence, then their cultivation speed and their own strength will far surpass you human martial artists. Yu Haoran, you have entered the ancient demon god tomb before. I wonder if you have seen the tomb of a spirit senior. Spiritual sage. Hearing the pagoda spirit mention spiritual sage, Yu Haoran carefully thought about it. Finally, he recalled that when the demon god's ancient tomb exploded, there was a tomb that was tens of thousands of miles wide and shaped like a divine dragon that had been destroyed by the destructive strength. When the tomb was destroyed, he vaguely saw the words Spirit Senior flash on the divine dragon's corpse. I have some impression. Nodding, Yu Haoran replied with uncertainty. That spiritual venerable was a powerful venerable who cultivated because of the spiritual vein. Thowling gave a definite answer. Yu Haoran, actually when Lai Yin described how he was attracted by the heaven-winged tiger and how he was surrounded by the exotic beasts, I had a guess in my heart. However, there was a fatal flaw in my guess. Now that I've seen this living, superior level, 5 spiritual vein, the only fatal flaw has been eliminated. I've basically figured out the whole story. Continue. Yu Haoran gestured. Yu Haoran's plan to target the elite disciples in the mystic realm wasn't set up by that disciple Zhao Zong. He can only be considered as a manipulated chess piece. There are a total of 2 people behind the scenes. One is this living, superior level, 5 spiritual vein, and the other is the enchanted beast who is adept at controlling the minds of living creatures. Enchanted beast. Hearing Thowling mention the enchanted beast, Yu Haoran revealed a look of sudden realization. However, he immediately frowned and asked doubtfully. Thowling, according to Lai Yun, Zhao Zong was the one who revealed the news of the heaven-winged tiger in the depths of the spiritual vein before the opening of the blue moon mystic realm. Although the enchanted beast is adept at controlling the minds of living creatures, with its strength, it's impossible for it to penetrate the barrier of the mystic realm and directly control Zhao Zong's mind, unless. At this point, Yu Haoran suddenly thought of a terrifying matter. That was to target the disciples in the mystic realm. The enchanted beast was the same as the source of the poison. It had probably started its plan more than 10 years ago. The reason why it planned to reel in the net this time was most likely related to the quality of the disciples in the mystic realm. Looks like you figured it out. Seeing a wise expression flash across Yu Haoran's face, Thowling knew that he had figured out the implications. Yu Haoran, ever since the day you were reborn, the original trajectory of the Tianxian continent had undergone a huge deviation. Therefore, some of your original ideas need to be changed in a timely manner. Understand. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran indicated that he understood. Then, another question arose in his heart. Thowling, no matter if it was the red redwood boar that we met when we first entered the mystic realm, or the source of the poison in the red rocks, the reason why they showed goodwill or set up a trap in advance was because they wanted to use the pet beast contract to break free from the restrictions of the blue moon mystic realm, so that they could break through to a higher grade. Then, with the enchanted beast methods, it would be easy to achieve this. Why did it still want to exterminate the elite disciples? I'm afraid it's because of the upper rank 5 spirit vein. Through the knowledge, Thowling looked at the endless spirit vein and sighed with a complicated expression. Yu Haoran, I just said that spirit veins that have developed spiritual intelligence can basically be classified as spirit beasts. You also know that spirit beasts can't sign a pet beast contract with human warriors. Moreover, before the upper rank 5 spirit vein condenses a spirit, it can't leave the spirit vein's main body. Therefore, if the upper rank 5 spirit vein wants to condense a spirit and advance to a higher grade, it can only leave the mystic realm together with the spirit vein's main body. How do they leave? Although he already had a guess in his heart, Howard still hoped to hear a different answer from Thaling's mouth. This was because the method he had in mind was too cruel and bloody. He didn't want the enchanted beast and the upper rank 5 spirit vein to use that method. Otherwise, he would find a way to exterminate them, even if he had to use up all his potential. The blood sacrifice technique. Unfortunately, Thaling's answer was exactly the same as his guess. This made Howard's heart sink. Thaling, looks like we have to fight with our lives on the line. Turning his head to look behind him, Howard seemed to see the scene of the trial disciples being crazily slaughtered through the boundless space. Although the life and death of those disciples had nothing to do with him. If the enchanted beast used the blood sacrifice technique, most of the living creatures in the mystic realm would not be able to escape the evil power produced by the blood sacrifice technique. Yes, not only do we have to fight with our lives on the line, but we also have to find some helpers. Because with just you alone, I'm afraid you won't be able to deal with the upper rank 5 spirit vein and the enchanted beast working together. Thaling agreed with Howard's idea of fighting with his life on the line. However, he had a different opinion about Howard's idea of fighting alone. Helper. Thaling, who among the disciples participating in the mystic realm's trial is qualified to be my helper. Howard's words seemed arrogant, but it wasn't because he looked down on the disciples participating in the mystic realm's trial. Because his physical body grade and cultivation had both broken through to the perfect rank 10 realm, his physical body and yuan power had both reached a perfect state. His true strength was almost at the middle rank for martial master. As for all the disciples who had entered the blue moon mystic realm to train, not to mention the strength of a rank 4 martial master, the number of disciples who had the strength of an early rank 3 martial master could be counted with one hand. Chapter 238. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm, Inside the Spirit Vein. Howard. Although none of the disciples in the mystic realm are qualified to do so, some of the strange beasts in the mystic realm can become your helpers. Thaling reminded him when he saw that Howard's gaze was only on his own kind and didn't consider this special situation in the real world. Thaling, what do you mean? Thaling's reminder made Howard think of the palace in the Red Rock group and the Red boar he met when he first entered the secret realm. Howard, I'm sure you know the destruction caused by the execution of the blood sacrifice technique. You only need to tell those special strange beasts about the thoughts of the upper rank 5 spirit vein and the enchanted beast, as well as their actions. They will definitely help you. After all, they know that no egg will remain intact when the nest is destroyed. Thaling, thanks. After thanking Thaling, Howard immediately turned and ran towards the entrance of the spirit vein. He planned to first find his most powerful friend in the secret realm. Originally, Howard had been going deep into the spirit vein without encountering any obstructions. However, just as he was about to turn and leave, countless strange beasts suddenly emerged from the underground of the spirit vein. Just as Lai Yun had said, the strange beasts that emerged from the underground were mostly between the 1st and 3rd rank of the 8th rank. Howard, it seems that this upper rank 5 spirit vein has developed intelligence for quite some time. It actually knows to hide the enemy within its body. Not only can it deal a fatal blow to the enemy that enters the spirit vein, it can also prevent the secret of him and the enchanted beast from leaking out. Thaling couldn't help but praise as he looked at the strange beasts that emerged from the underground. Lin Huang ignored Thaling's praise of the upper rank 5 spirit vein. This was because he didn't have full confidence that he could break through the encirclement of the strange beasts that emerged from the underground. First, he took out 10 pills that could restore yuan power in a short period of time from his storage ear and put them in his mouth in advance. After that, he took a deep breath and roared as he charged at the exotic beasts in front of him. Due to the fact that the ordinary strength of exotic beasts was very strong, and there were many of them. If he were to use the method of transforming his origin energy to attack, firstly, the destructive power would not be enough. Secondly, it would be a huge burden on his origin energy. Thus, Yu Haoran was like a hungry wolf pouncing into a flock of sheep. Every time he struck out, the first punch would take the life of a mutated beast. Yu Haoran didn't know how long he had fought, nor did he know how many strange beasts he had killed. All he knew was that he had swallowed all the medicinal pills he had put in his mouth beforehand. His hands and legs were starting to feel sore and numb from killing so many strange beasts. Glancing around from the corner of his eyes, Yu Haoran used the momentum of stepping on the exotic beast's corpse to directly leap onto a 20-meter-tall tree. Then he stood at the top and quickly scanned the area below the tree. Then he was stunned by the results of his battle just now. From the beginning of his battle with the exotic beast to the moment he jumped out of the encirclement, the distance of the battle was close to 900 meters. Over 400 corpses of exotic beasts were strewn all over the 900-meter-long road. The corpses lying on the road either had their heads blown off or their bodies split in half. In any case, not a single one of the corpses on the ground was intact. Perhaps it was because the exotic beast had never seen someone as ferocious as Yu Haoran, or perhaps it was because they were stunned by the bloody massacre just now. Seeing Yu Haoran jump out of the encirclement and onto the top of the tree, all the exotic beasts under the tree stared at him, but not a single one dared to take the initiative to attack. However, Yu Haoran knew that this situation was only temporary. From the moment he turned around to leave, those exotic beasts had started appearing. This meant that someone was secretly watching him. He just didn't know if it was the high-grade tier 5 spirit vein under his feet or the enchanted beast hiding in the dark that was watching him. However, regardless of whether it was the high-grade tier 5 spirit vein or the enchanted beast watching him, in order to ensure the success of their plan, they would definitely not allow him to leave this place. After more than an hour of killing, he had only slaughtered over 400 exotic beasts. Yu Haoran couldn't help but reminisce about the transformation secret method. 2 days ago, when he was facing the 5 poison mutated beasts in the Red Rocks, he had transformed into the Vajra monkey and wielded the As I Wish rod. In less than 30 seconds, he had killed over 65 poison mutated beasts that were at the peak of the martial ancestor realm. If he could transform into the Vajra monkey now, not only would he not have to fear these exotic beasts, he wouldn't even need to turn around and look for help. Just as Yu Haoran was reminiscing about the transformation secret method and the Vajra monkey, a baby-like wailing sound suddenly rang out from the depths of the spirit vein. After hearing the baby-like wailing sound, Yu Haoran first became nervous, but then he heaved a sigh of relief. Due to the limitations of the main body, it was very difficult for a high-grade tier 5 spirit vein's consciousness to leave the main body before condensing a spirit. And the weeping sound just now came from the enchanting beast. This also meant that if they wanted to start the blood sacrifice, they would need the corpses of cultivators, and it would most likely be carried out by their chess piece, Zhao Chong. Although Zhao Zhuangjian was very smart and proficient in the art of conspiracy, he was still limited by his own strength. Wanting to chase down the escaping elite disciples and wanting to surround and kill the disciples in the safe zone wasn't an easy task. Therefore, he didn't have to worry about the enchanted beast immediately activating the blood sacrifice for the time being. However, he didn't have to worry about the safety of the disciples in the secret realm, but he had to face the exotic beasts that were about to launch an attack. He took a deep breath and took a few more pills to quickly replenish his essence force. Then he took out a high-grade zone realm sword from his storage ear and planned to use it to fight the enemy. After all, after an hour of continuous killing, his hands and legs were a little sore and numb. He needed some time to recover. Although using a high-grade zone realm sword wasn't as convenient as using his hands and feet, it was still easy to kill the exotic beasts that surrounded him. Kill. After recovering 80% of his essence force with the help of the pills, Yu Haoran roared and directly jumped into the crowd of exotic beasts. However, the killing this time was different from the previous one. With the advantage of the sharpness of the magic weapon, He killed the exotic beasts that surrounded him while using the advantage of his footwork to speed up his approach to the spirit veins entrance. Because the exotic beasts were already in a frenzy of attacks, they didn't notice Yuhauran's small movements as he approached the spirit veins entrance. When Yuhauran was more than 1,000 meters away from the spirit veins entrance, the enchanted beast that was secretly monitoring him cried like a baby again. However, this time, not only did the crying sound last longer, but it was also very sharp. Not only did it make Yuhauran feel a little dizzy, but the eyes of the exotic beasts instantly glowed with a terrifying red light. Chapter 239. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Inside the Spirit Vein. This is troublesome. After the baby-like cries disappeared, Yuhauran, who had regained his composure, saw the terrifying red light in the eyes of the exotic beasts in front of him and knew that things were troublesome. That was because the enchanted beast had not only commanded the exotic beast to block his way out of the spirit vein through its cries, but it had also caused all the exotic beasts to fall into a frenzy. This kind of madness was different from the madness of their own volition. That was because this was a kind of madness that overdrew their vitality. From the dark red light in the eyes of the exotic beasts, Yuhauran knew that they had basically overdrawn all of their vitality. In other words, the exotic beast that could only display the strength of the 3rd rank of the 8th rank could display the strength of the peak of the 9th rank of the 8th rank after overdrawing all of their vitality. Fortunately, the Blue Moon Secret Realm's laws restricted one's realm and strength and weakened the power of overdrawing their vitality by half. This caused their original strength to drop to the 6th rank of the 8th rank of the 8th rank. Even so, Yuhauran knew that he was no longer a match for these exotic beasts that had overdrawn all of their vitality. Therefore, after swallowing the last elixir in his mouth, he put away the high-grade zone realm sword in his hand and turned around, intending to rush into the depths of the spirit vein. That was because only the direction to the depths of the spirit vein had fewer exotic beasts, and those exotic beasts had not overdrawn their vitality. In the sea of consciousness, inside the victor, Thaling, whose body was still illusory, clenched his fists tightly, looking like he was about to rush out of the victor to help. However, considering the restrictions of the secret realm's laws on the realm, he was a little hesitant. However, when he saw the exotic beasts that had overdrawn all of their vitality to reach the 6th rank of the 8th rank approaching Yuhauran step by step, he finally made up his mind. However, just as he was about to step out of the victor with his left leg, his divine sense, which had not been retracted, suddenly discovered a situation. Afterwards, he retracted his left leg and hurriedly shouted at Yuhauran, who was about to rush into the depths of the spirit vein. Yuhauran, help is here. Hurry up and rush out. Help! In the secret realm, only some special exotic beasts could be called help. Among these exotic beasts, there were only 2 that could truly help him on their own accord. Therefore, even without interrogating Thaling, Yuhauran knew who his helper was. Yuhauran let out an excited howl when he thought about how his helper was a red redwood boar that could display the strength of a peak 7th level, 9th rank spiritual beast. He then mobilized all of his origin power to his legs and used his peak advanced stage speed to charge towards the periphery of the spirit vein. Although those exotic beasts that had overdrawn their life force could display the strength of an 8th rank, 6th rank beast, it was difficult for them to be effective against Yuhauran, who deliberately dodged and never faced him head-on. It didn't take long. Just as Yuhauran was using the speed of his footwork martial technique to evade the attacks of the mutated beasts, a robust red redwood boar suddenly charged in from the entrance of the spirit vein. The red redwood boar didn't care whether the obstacles in front of it were exotic beasts, trees, or rocks. It simply smashed through them and smashed them to pieces. Under this barrage of attacks, the red redwood boar arrived in front of Yuhauran in just over a minute. Rumble! When it arrived in front of Yuhauran, the red redwood boar let out a few rumbling noises. Although he didn't understand the cries of the red redwood boar, Howard understood its meaning. Without any hesitation, he appeared on the back of the red redwood boar in a flash and tightened his legs around its abdomen. Soon after, the red redwood boar began to charge back the way it came. Just as the red redwood boar carried Howard to the entrance of the spirit vein, a baby-like cry suddenly came from the depths of the spirit vein. Furthermore, this baby-like cry was not only more ear-piercing, but it also lasted longer. Rumble. Facing the baby-like cry coming from the depths of the spirit vein, the red redwood boar, carrying Howard on its back, turned its head and let out a few low growls. Although the red redwood boar's growls weren't as loud as the enchanted beast's cries, after the red redwood boar's growls, the enchanted beast suddenly fell silent. As for those exotic beasts that had overdrawn their life force, they only stared at Howard, who was crawling on the red redwood boar's back. They didn't dare to continue attacking. Rumble. After letting out a few low growls at those exotic beasts that had overdrawn their life force, the red redwood boar moved its 4 short legs and quickly rushed towards the entrance of the spirit vein. After rushing out of the spirit vein's entrance, Howard jumped down from the red redwood boar's back and took a deep breath. The nervousness in his heart immediately relaxed. Brother Boar, I can't thank you enough for your great kindness. Howard solemnly thanked the red redwood boar with both hands and his upper body bent. Rumble. Shaking its head, the red redwood boar indicated to Howard that he didn't need to be so polite. Brother Boar, since you were able to lend a hand in time, you must already know the purpose of the high-grade tier 5 spirit vein and the enchanted beast. I wonder if Brother Boar can join hands with me and destroy their blood sacrifice. When he thought about how the red redwood boar could appear in time, it meant that it had been secretly observing him. Then it must have already sensed his discovery in the spirit vein. Therefore, Howard didn't beat around the bush and directly sent out an invitation to join hands. Faced with Howard's invitation, the red redwood boar sank into deep thought. After pondering for nearly 10 minutes, the red redwood boar began to rumble. If it was just simple communication, Howard could still barely understand. However, when faced with the red redwood boar's long speech, he immediately fell into a fog. Fowling. Do you understand the language of beasts? In desperation, he could only ask for help from Fowling. Howard, I'm an artifact spirit, not a strange beast. How could I possibly understand what it's saying? When Howard was in danger, it couldn't lend a helping hand. This made Fowling extremely unhappy, so when faced with Howard's request for help, its tone was somewhat impatient. Not knowing what had gotten into Fowling's head, Howard shrugged his shoulders and said to the rumbling red redwood boar, Brother Boar, I didn't understand a single word of what you said earlier. Speaking up to here, Howard pointed to the outside of the secret realm. About 1,000 li away from here, there's a group of red rocks. There's a strange beast that can understand the language of beasts and communicate with me. Why don't we use it to translate what you said earlier? Hearing Howard mention the group of red rocks, a trace of fear flashed through the red redwood boar's eyes. However, it was unknown whether it was due to its pride or because it had other motives, but it actually didn't oppose Howard's suggestion and agreed to follow Howard to see the palace. Chapter 240. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. After agreeing to Howard's suggestion, the red redwood boar suddenly made a few grunts at him. Brother Boar, there's no need. Howard waved his hand and rejected it directly. He was willing to let it carry him in the depths of the spirit vein. That was because he was forced to do so, and also because he wanted to quickly escape from the spirit vein, now that there was no danger, and he was only going to find the palace. How could he have the nerve to continue using the red redwood boar as a mount? Gore. Faced with Howard's rejection, the red redwood boar grunted in dissatisfaction. It scuttled in front of Howard and gently nudged Howard onto its back. Afterwards, it moved its 4 short legs and rushed towards the red rocks outside the secret realm. Inside the spirit vein, Howard didn't feel how fast the red redwood boar was due to the pressure from the surrounding exotic beasts. However, when it truly started to display its speed, Howard discovered that the red redwood boar's speed was much faster than his speed at the peak of the large success stage. When they passed by the Spring Mountain, Howard raised his hand, but ultimately put it down. Although the nine-legged worm that had signed a beast pet contract with Zhang Ro possessed the strength of a martial king, it was still in its infancy. If it were to be injured in the battle with the enchanted beast and the high-rank 5-spirit vein, it would definitely affect its advancement and delay its advancement to the 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly. Moreover, if Wu Jingjun knew that he needed the 9-legged worm's strength to reach the martial king realm, he would definitely not let him take the risk. He might even accompany him in taking the risk. Therefore, after much consideration, Howard decided to settle everything himself. With a speed that far surpassed the peak of the large success stage, Howard had just made up his mind when the red redwood boar brought him to the red rocks. Looking at the red rocks that he hadn't seen for even a day, Howard sighed. Then he said to the red redwood boar, "Brother boar, let's go." Roo. The red redwood boar grunted twice and shook its short tail, following Howard into the group of red rocks. "Brother Chi, Brother Du Yuan," Howard requests an audience. Howard stopped as he strode past the entrance of the group of red rocks. Then he mustered his origin energy and shouted loudly. After the shouting ended, a long red tongue stretched out in front of Howard, and a provocative voice came from the tongue. "Come at me if you dare. Brother Pig, let's go." Howard turned his head and reminded the red redwood pig. He then walked directly to the tip of the tongue. Looking at the bloody tongue, the red redwood boar's eyes revealed a trace of fear. But when it saw that Howard was already standing on the tip of the tongue, it stepped onto the tip of the tongue with its 4 short legs. However, when its 4 short legs stepped onto the tip of the tongue, it seemed to intentionally use force and directly press the tongue, which was more than 20 centimeters above the ground, to the ground. "Pig head, if you don't want to die, you better behave yourself." Du Yuan's angry voice came from the tongue that floated back up. Du Yuan didn't know if it was because he was afraid of the red redwood boar, or because he was concerned about Howard's existence, but he only left behind a warning and then began to retract his tongue. Du Yuan's tongue was much faster than the red redwood boar's speed, which was at the pinnacle of mastery, and the red redwood boar's running speed. In a short 5 seconds, Howard arrived at the deepest part of the group of red rocks under the guidance of Du Yuan's tongue, in front of a dense fog. "Come down!" When he was 5 meters away from the dense fog, the tongue suddenly stopped, and Du Yuan's cold voice came from the tongue. Jumping down from the tip of the tongue, Howard began to size up the dense fog in front of him. Seeing that Howard was too close to the dense fog, the red redwood boar snorted twice and then bit his trouser leg, hinting him to quickly retreat. "Brother boar, don't worry." After hinting for the red redwood boar to be quiet, Howard continued to observe the dense fog in front of him. He even used his elemental energy to directly absorb a wisp of the dense fog to observe it at a closer distance. Howard's sudden action caused Du Yuan to snort in disdain. Facing Du Yuan's disdainful mockery, Howard didn't get angry. He continued to observe the wisp of poisonous fog in his palm. After close to 5 minutes of observation, Howard dispersed the wisp of poisonous fog in his palm and said confidently, "Using the 5 poisons as the foundation, fusing the 1st grade 10th level lilac primordial fragrance, the 2nd grade 10th level heartbreak grass, the 3rd grade 10th level half-step fall, the 4th grade 10th level poison astral source, and the 7th grade 9th level purple poison flower. It is able to collect every type of poison from the 10th grade to the 7th grade and mix them with the best ratio. Finally, it is able to form the top-notch soul-severing fog that will definitely kill a Zone Realm expert and a King Realm expert." Looks like Brother Du Yuan's understanding of poisons is enough to enter the Grandmaster realm. Hearing Howard mention the 36 types of spiritual herbs that contain different poisons and were of different grades, an exclamation suddenly came from the fog. Then Du Yuan's dissatisfied voice came from the poisonous fog. You can tell the composition of the poisonous fog just by observing. Then, I wonder if you dare to enter the fog? Huh? Yu Haoran chuckled and ignored Du Yuan's provocation. Instead, he closed his eyes and started to calculate. In his previous life, he entered the Tao through poison. Although he only became the poisonous sword sovereign in the end, his understanding and achievements in the Tao of poison far surpassed his cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to refine a top-notch poison pill that could kill a ninth-grade martial saint with his martial monarch cultivation. It didn't take long, only about 3 minutes. Yu Haoran colluded with Thaling and took out 5 drops of blood essence from Victor that he had captured the leader of the 5 poison exotic beasts, as well as an elixir furnace that he had collected from the Law Enforcement Peak's treasury. Then, he took out 8 spiritual herbs that contained different poisons from his storage ring. Then, he directly activated the Dantian fire in his Dantian and heated the elixir furnace. Then, he started to refine the 8 spiritual herbs that contained different poisons. Looking at the spiritual herbs that were quickly melting into spiritual liquid, Yu Haoran couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, he had purified the Yuanli in his Dantian and cultivated the Dantian fire in advance. Otherwise, he wouldn't have any way to deal with the poisonous fog that Du Yuan had refined using 5 types of original poisons and 36 types of supplementary poisons. Although the Dantian fire couldn't be compared with the Earth Core fire and other kinds of strange fires, it could still help the elixir furnace to refine the spiritual herbs. After the 8 spiritual herbs that contained poison had all been refined into liquid, Yu Haoran dispersed the Dantian fire and took out 8 drops of spiritual liquid from the elixir furnace. Then, he put away the elixir furnace. Looking at the fog in front of him, Yu Haoran's lips curled up slightly. He directly merged the 5 drops of blood essence from the leader of the 5 poison exotic beasts, and then mixed it into the spiritual liquid of the 8 spiritual herbs that he had just refined. Chapter 241. Within the Blue Moon Secret Realm, within the group of red rocks. Taking a deep breath, Yu Haoran mobilized 70% of the elemental energy in his Dantian and began to separate and compress the fused venom. After separating and compressing it 9 times, the originally fist-sized venom finally shrunk to 2 cherry-sized, completely transparent drops of venom. First, he scattered one of the drops of venom and sprayed it evenly on his body. Then he scattered the other drop of venom and sprayed it on the red redwood boar's body. Soon after, Yu Haoran said indifferently, "Brother Boar, let's go in. Rumble." Although Yu Haoran's process of refining the venom was very exciting, the red redwood boar, who was deeply immersed in the poisonous fog, didn't believe that the drop of venom sprayed on its body could withstand the corrosion of the poisonous fog. Therefore, while it rumbled to indicate to Yu Haoran not to take the risk, it bit his trouser leg, refusing to let him enter the poisonous fog no matter what. Seeing the red redwood boar's doubtful actions, Yu Haoran patted its back and indicated, "Brother Boar, don't worry. If it weren't for the fact that I don't have enough spirit herbs that contain poison and that there isn't a suitable earth core fire to refine elixirs in this place, I would have refined a source-devouring elixir and devoured all of this poisonous fog." After leaving behind a confident and domineering sentence, Yu Haoran stepped into the poisonous fog. Seeing Yu Haoran step into the poisonous fog, the red redwood boar stood on the spot and spun around 3 times. Finally, it also stepped into the poisonous fog with its 4 short legs. After stepping into the poisonous fog, countless colorful poisonous fog surged toward Yu Haoran. However, every time a different colored poisonous fog came into contact with his body, it would transform into transparent venom and merge with the venom that was sprayed on his body. The poisonous fog didn't cover a large area. After he passed through the poisonous fog, what entered his eyes was a lake with a diameter of about 100 meters. After seeing the colorful poisonous fog rising from the lake, Yu Haoran finally understood how the poison source had managed to combine the 36 supplementary medicinal ingredients in a reasonable manner. At the same time, he finally understood why the poison source was called the poison source. This was because the lake in front of him was the source of the poison that he had intended to find after entering the group of red rocks. The origin of poison not only contained toxins that could kill all things in the world, but it could also mix all poisons in the world. You're amazing. Seeing that Yu Haoyuan had easily broken through the poisonous fog that he had created with the help of the source of poison and 36 supplementary spiritual herbs, the source of poison in the lake seemed to be unconvinced, but in fact, it was full of admiration. You're welcome. Although he looked down on Du Yuan's use of poison in his heart, this time he had a favor to ask of Du Yuan. He didn't want to anger Du Yuan, so he still replied politely. After that, Yu Haoran called out to Pallas, who was sitting by the lake and had been silent all this while, Brother Qi, brother, you sit. Pallas gestured as he pointed at the rock beside him that had been corroded by the poison. Seeing that Pallas's aura was calm and peaceful, Yu Haoran knew that Pallas was in the nature of the wood attribute. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief. After that, he waved his hand at the red redwood boar that had just passed through the poisonous fog and arrived at the lake. Then he directly sat beside Pallas. Brother Qi, you and Brother Du Yuan are in danger. After several interactions in his previous life, Yu Haoran understood Pallas's character very well. He knew how to attract Pallas's attention. After turning his head to look at Yu Haoran, Pallas's gaze returned to the lake, and he said calmly, Brother Yu, are you talking about the blood ritual that Brother Ling and Brother Mi are preparing to use? Brother Qi already knew about their plan. Pallas's calm reply made Yu Haoran's heart tremble. He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. I already knew about their plan 10 years ago. Pallas nodded his head expressionlessly. Then I wonder what Brother Qi's opinion is? Yu Haoran knew that his previous question was pure nonsense. If Pallas objected, with his valiant strength, how could he allow the other party to continue preparing the sacrificial offerings for the blood ritual? However, he was unwilling, or rather, he didn't believe that Pallas, who had 3 different personalities, would be so cold. I neither agree nor disagree, because even if they used the blood ritual of all the living beings in the secret realm, it wouldn't affect the Red Rock group. It also wouldn't harm me, Brother Du Yuan, and Brother Du Yuan's descendants. Pallas's cold and confident reply made Yu Haoran disappointed, but at the same time, he felt a trace of relief. He was disappointed because he had lost Pallas, a powerful helper. If he wanted to deal with the upper rank 5 spiritual pulse, it would be very troublesome. He was relieved because since he didn't agree, it meant that he wouldn't help him or the other party. This meant that he didn't have to consider Pallas's thoughts and attitude. After all, in the entire Blue Moon secret realm, the strange beast that he was most afraid of wasn't the enchanted beast that knew bewitching techniques, nor was it the Du Yuan that was good at using poison. It was Pallas, whose true strength had reached the limit of the Blue Moon secret realm. Brother Qi, can you discuss with Brother Du Yuan and give me a portion of the Du Yuan? Yu Haoran pleaded as he pointed at the lake in front of him. Without a powerful helper like Pallas, Yu Haoran could only think of another way. Therefore, he placed his attention on the Du Yuan. Relying on his attainments in poison from his previous life, as well as the countless spiritual herbs in the Blue Moon secret realm, he planned to rely on his own strength to get rid of the upper rank 5 spiritual pulse and the enchanted beast. No problem. Without asking for Du Yuan's opinion, Pallas nodded his head. After that, he stretched out his left hand and sucked at the lake's surface. A tornado-like lake water was sucked into his palm. At this moment, Pallas's powerful strength was displayed. No matter how much lake water he sucked, only 1 drop would appear in his palm. Brother Qi, that's enough. Du Yuan, who had been staying at the bottom of the lake, couldn't help but remind him when the lake's surface had lowered by nearly 10 centimeters. Brother Qi, it's indeed enough. Originally, he only wanted to take a dozen drops of the Du Yuan's origin water. However, Yu Haoran didn't expect Pallas to be so generous. Brother Yu, do you have a special container for this lake water? Pallas asked as he raised the lake water that seemed to be only 1 drop, but was actually over 10,000 meters long. Yes. He took the elixir bottle that could hold the entire lake water from Thaling's hand and placed a drop of Du Yuan's origin water into the elixir bottle. After that, Yu Haoran continued to ask, Brother Qi, you're very familiar with this secret realm. Do you know where the Earth Core fire is? If he wanted to use the Du Yuan to deal with the upper rank 5 spiritual pulse and the enchanted beast, the power of his Dantian fire was obviously insufficient. Chapter 242. In the Blue Moon's secret realm, among the red rocks. 3,000 kilometers away from here, there is a group of volcanoes. At the bottom of the third mountain, there is the Earth Core fire. Furthermore, it is a very good quality Earth Core fire. Pallas, who had almost explored the entire secret realm, pointed out the location of the Earth Core fire. Thank you, Brother Qi. After knowing the exact location of the Earth Core fire, Yu Haoran thanked him and looked at the lake. Brother Du Yuan, you are good at using poison. You must have collected many poisonous spiritual herbs. I wonder if you are familiar with the distribution of poisonous spiritual herbs in the secret realm? What do you want to do? Du Yuan's interested voice came from the lake. I'm going to refine a poisonous pill with a poison origin as the foundation and 36 poisonous spiritual herbs. From Pallas's selfless gift of the poison origin and pointing out the exact location of the Earth Core fire, Yu Haoran's dissatisfaction with his decision to not help either side immediately disappeared. Therefore, he did not hide what he was going to do next. What about the effect? Similarly, the poison origin used the poison origin as the foundation and then fused it with the poisonous fog of 36 different poisonous spirit herbs. The poison origin was even more interested in the pill that Hao Ran was preparing to refine. Yu Haoran glanced at Pallas and said in a low voice, A peak martial king will die if he touches it. A peak martial emperor will die if he consumes it. Even a martial sage's divine soul will be corroded if he consumes it, causing him to completely lose his understanding of the power of laws. Hearing that the pill Yu Haoran was going to refine could actually directly threaten the power of laws of the martial sage realm, not to mention the poison source in the lake, even the Scarlet Loathe could not help but gasp. Since it could threaten a martial sage, it could also poison him, a strange beast that could not break through the 8th rank due to the restrictions of the secret realm. After sucking in a breath of cold air, Du Yuan suddenly had a strong interest in the pill that Hao Ran was preparing to refine. However, his relationship with Yu Haoran was not harmonious. He wanted to suggest the idea of observing on the spot, but he did not know how to bring it up. Brother Yu, due to some special reasons, Brother Du Yuan has an innate obsession with the Tao of poison. If it doesn't involve your own secrets, can you allow Brother Du Yuan to observe you on the spot when you're refining that pill? They had known each other for nearly 100 years. Pallas was too familiar with Du Yuan's personality. He knew what Du Yuan wanted to do, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Therefore, Pallas requested for an on-site observation on his behalf. It's just concocting an ordinary poison pill. Not to mention observing it on the spot. Even if Brother Du Yuan wants the pill formula, he can do it. Actually, even without Pallas mentioning it, Yu Haoran could guess what the source of the poison was thinking. He didn't care about this at all. This was because although the poison pill that he refined was obtained from a relic in his previous life, there were dozens of pill formulas that he had obtained at that time. This poison pill was only the one with the worst effect among the dozens of pill formulas that he had obtained. Even if he didn't give the pill formula to Du Yuan, it wouldn't be a problem for him to teach him how to refine the pill. Brother Yu, thank you so much. Hearing that Yu Haoran not only allowed him to observe on the spot, but was also willing to give away the pill formula for refining the poison pill, Du Yuan, who originally disliked Yu Haoran, suddenly felt that this human in front of him was much more lovable. After expressing his gratitude, Du Yuan felt that he couldn't take advantage of Yu Haoran for free, so he took the initiative to contribute the supplementary herbs needed to refine the pill. Brother Yu, for more than 100 years, I have accumulated many spiritual herbs that contain poison. I wonder if there are any herbs that are suitable for you to refine the pill? With Du Yuan's willingness to contribute the supplementary herbs for refining the pill, the calm lake began to churn. Along with the churning lake, piles of spiritual herbs that emitted dense spiritual energy were tossed to the side of the lake by Du Yuan. Seeing nearly 1,000 different types and grades of spiritual herbs being tossed to the side of the lake like weeds, Yu Haoran's heart ached as he cursed Du Yuan for being a wastrel. At the same time, he quickly checked the spiritual herbs. 1,300 years old, able to refine black headgrass that can kill martial sages. Just as he walked to the side of the pile of spirit herbs, a spirit herb that was emitting a fishy smell under his feet made Yu Haoran's heart ache as he picked it up. Sigh. After carefully examining the black headgrass, Yu Haoran couldn't help but sigh. Due to improper preservation, a lot of the spiritual energy in the spiritual herb had been lost. The blackhead grass that was originally level 7, grade 9, had been reduced to level 8, grade 1. At most, it could only be used to refine poison pills that could threaten martial kings. Connecting his mind to the storage ring and thaling, over 100 wooden boxes that were specially used to store spiritual herbs instantly appeared at Yu Haoran's feet. Brother Du Yuan, although you personally plucked these spiritual herbs, I have to criticize you, Yu Haoran said bitterly as he placed the blackhead grass into the wooden boxes. Take this blackhead grass, for example. You have to use a wooden box made of green wood to preserve it. This way, you can preserve the energy in the blackhead grass and prevent it from losing its energy, causing its grade to drop. Hearing Yu Haoran's criticism, Du Yuan, who had been staying at the bottom of the lake, smiled embarrassedly. However, he didn't refute. This was because he knew that with his careless personality and irritable temper, it was very difficult for him to have the patience to preserve spiritual herbs that he had casually plucked. Although this broken heart flower didn't lose much of its energy, due to the flower being exposed to the air, the unique poison in the flower has changed. It is no longer suitable for refining pills. Yu Haoran pointed out as he casually picked up a flower that looked like its heart had been split open. This crane core flower has reached the age of 3,000 years. Not only has the quality of the flower changed, but the loss of energy in the flower has also become more serious. Yu Haoran shook his head and tossed aside a poisonous flower that could threaten a peak martial emperor. Then, he continued to speak bitterly and hatefully. This one. After spending half a day, Yu Haoran finally counted all the spiritual herbs that Du Yuan had contributed. However, more than half of them were missing. Due to the severe loss of energy, the grade of the spiritual herbs had dropped to the point that he didn't need them anymore. Or due to improper storage, the spiritual herbs had mutated and were no longer suitable for refining pills. Even though half of the spiritual herbs could be used, a portion of them had lost their original value due to the loss of energy. Looking at the 300 wooden boxes beside him, Yu Haoran picked out 108 wooden boxes and said to the lake's surface, "Let's go. Brother Du Yuan, after my selection and categorization, these 300 spiritual herbs can still be used. However, among the 300 spiritual herbs that can be used, only 29 of them are supplementary herbs needed for refining pills." Chapter 243. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm, among the Red Rocks. No problem. Hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, not only did Du Yuan have no objections, he even ordered Palace. Brother Yu, not only is Big Brother Qi powerful, he also has the fastest speed in the Secret Realm. You can let Big Brother Qi personally find the 9 spiritual herbs that you need. Seeing that Du Yuan was using him as a coolie, Palace only smiled bitterly, but he didn't object. Sure, Yu Haoran nodded and pointed at the red redwood pig. In order to refine those elixirs in the shortest time possible, Brother Qi, Brother Pig, and I will work together. After that, he gathered the 108 spiritual herbs that he had picked and spoke in a negotiating tone. Brother Du Yuan, I'm not only good at the way of poison, but I also like to study it. Therefore, I'll be thick-skinned and accept these 108 spiritual herbs that contain special toxins. Is that okay? Although Yu Haoran didn't plan to get involved in the way of poison after his rebirth, His 100 years of cultivation and research on the way of poison in his previous life made him very clear about the effects and power of the way of poison in the early stages. Moreover, he was also proficient in the way of pills. After his rebirth, he also planned to use the way of pills to supplement his way of martial arts to increase the speed of his cultivation. Therefore, he planned to get involved in the way of poison and spiritual pills that could complement each other. More importantly, among the 108 spiritual herbs that he had picked, other than being able to refine a portion of poison pills, there were also dozens of spiritual herbs that could be used to refine spiritual pills. As you wish. Du Yuan, who owned countless spiritual herbs in the secret realm, replied casually. After that, he looked forward to Yu Haoran providing the missing 9 spiritual herbs. Flower dew grass, one pointed end and the other round. Its shape is like the dew condensed by the morning mist. I know where it is. I'll go and pick the flower dew grass. Hearing Yu Haoran mention the shape of the flower dew grass, Du Yuan hurriedly said, Sure. Nodding, Yu Haoran continued to provide the shape and characteristics of the second spiritual herb. Horse cherry blossom. The diameter of the root is about 2 meters long. The entire flower is made up of hundreds of stamens, and its color is dark yellow. Lulu, after hearing Yu Haoran provide the shape of the second spirit medicine, the red redwood boar grunted twice. Then, it immediately moved its 4 short legs and rushed out of the poisonous fog. Devil snare is a type of spirit flower that contains a huge amount of poison. Its flowers are red and give off a beautiful and enchanting feeling. I know that I'll go. After hearing Yu Haoran provide the shape of the third spiritual flower, Palace indicated that he should go. However, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he planned to listen to Yu Haoran's description of the remaining 6 spiritual herbs and see how many he could harvest in the shortest amount of time. Immortal fish grass, horsehooves. After listing out the shapes of the remaining 6 spiritual grasses and spiritual flowers, Palace directly picked out 5 spiritual grasses and spiritual flowers and told Yu Haoran where the horse's hooves were. After Palace somersaulted out of the poisonous fog, the poison source in the lake said, Brother Yu, after you. Brother Poison Source, once you find the spirit medicine, return here as soon as possible. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran instructed and used his greater mastery stage footwork technique to rush out of the poisonous fog. After Yu Haoran left the poisonous fog, the calm lake gradually began to churn. Then, an extremely ugly monster floated out of the lake. How to describe this monster? The mouth of a spider, the body of a 1,000-legged centipede, the tongue of a snake, the poisonous tail of a black scorpion, and the skin of a toad. In short, this was a monster that combined all the characteristics of the 5 poisonous beasts. If Yu Haoran could see the poison source's body now, he would definitely be able to guess the origin of the poison source. He would also know why he had never heard of the poison source in his previous life. Looking at the poisonous fog around him, the poison source began to slowly rise into the air. Then, it directly flew through the poisonous fog and headed in the direction of the flower dew grass. Over 1,700 kilometers to the southwest of the Red Rocks, there was a dense forest. This dense forest was the most important supplementary herb out of the 9 herbs that were missing to concoct the poison pill, the horsehooves. Over 1,700 kilometers. Even with his greater mastery stage speed, Yu Haoran spent nearly 4.5 hours to barely reach the dense forest where the horsehooves lived. Fortunately, there was no day and night in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. The Secret Realm's barrier naturally emitted a gentle light, causing the entire secret realm to be in the daytime. Looking at the boundless dense forest, Yu Haoran took out a few elixirs and spiritual stones. He first adjusted his breathing on the spot. Only after his physical strength and yuan Li had recovered to their peak state did he step into the dense forest. The southwest of the Red Rocks belonged to the outer region of the secret realm. Whether it was the natural environment or the exotic beasts that lived there, the danger wasn't high. However, the less dangerous a place was, the more likely it was to have fatal dangers. 5 minutes into the dense forest. With a slap, he killed a viper that was over 70 centimeters long and had a colorful body. Howard raised his head and looked ahead. Then, he continued to go deeper into the dense forest. 10 minutes later. Pa! With the same slap, he killed a viper that was over 70 centimeters long and had a colorful body. Howard couldn't help but raise his head and look ahead. Then, he continued to go deeper into the dense forest with doubts. 15 minutes later. Pa! With the same slap, he killed a viper that was over 70 centimeters long and had a colorful body. Howard first turned his head and looked behind him. Then, he raised his head and looked ahead. His brows furrowed slightly. After that, he left different marks on the trunks of 3 different trees. Then, he continued to go deeper into the dense forest. 20 minutes later. Pa! With the same action, he killed a viper that was over 70 centimeters long and had a colorful body. Howard hurriedly observed the different marks that were left on the trunks of the 3 trees 5 minutes ago. However, the marks that were left 5 minutes ago had already disappeared. This made him suddenly realize that he had either fallen into a continuous cycle of formations, or he had fallen into a natural trap. Fowling, what do you think? After more than half an hour of observation, Howard ruled out the possibility of formation. Then, the only possibility left was a natural trap in the secret realm. As for how to break a natural trap, he didn't have a good idea in a short period of time. He could only rely on Fowling. Howard, although your speculation was not wrong, you neglected a very important point. Hearing Howard's speculation and Fowling's observation of the environment, Fowling suddenly proposed a different idea. I neglected a very important point. Frowning slightly, Howard didn't know what he had neglected. What is the purpose of collecting elixirs and refining elixirs? Fowling reminded him. You said that I fell into the trap of the enchanted beast. Fowling's reminder made Howard suddenly realize that his speculation had indeed neglected a very important point. That was the natural trap in the secret realm. Although it could make him fall into an infinite cycle and make the marks he left disappear, it was impossible to infinitely resurrect the viper that he killed. Chapter 244. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Considering how he had single-handedly slaughtered several hundred powerful exotic beasts and had a good relationship with the red redwood boar and Pallas, it was normal for the enchanted beast to target him in advance. Since it was the enchanted beast that attacked him and not a natural trap or formation, Howard wasn't worried. Although he had fallen into the enchanted beast trap earlier, as long as he knew the reason behind it, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break free from the enchanted beast's bewitching technique with his powerful mental state cultivation. Furthermore, the enchanted beast was one of the most dangerous exotic beasts, and also one of the least dangerous. It was dangerous because the enchanted beast's bewitching technique was impossible to guard against. You didn't even know when and where you were, and could fall into its trap. It was said to be the least dangerous because the enchanted beast didn't have much attacking power. As long as he could break free from its bewitching technique, his body wouldn't even be comparable to an ordinary Tier 10 exotic beast. Closing his eyes, he calmed his chi and focused his mind. His mental state cultivation, which was about to break through to the martial saint realm, slowly sorted out his mind. When everything returned to normal, Howard opened his eyes and discovered that he had been standing outside the forest all this time. In other words, he had fallen into the enchanted beast trap when he arrived at the forest and was observing the forest. Although he discovered that he had been standing outside the forest all this time, Howard didn't rashly enter the forest. Instead, he closed his eyes again and used his mental state cultivation to sort out his mind. After reopening his eyes and communicating with the Fowling, Howard was finally certain that he had broken free from the enchanted beast's bewitching technique. Afterwards, he used his mental state cultivation to raise the defense of his mind, in case he fell into the enchanted beast's bewitching technique again. At the same time, he was vigilant of his surroundings and stepped into the forest. At the same time, the Fowling in his sea of consciousness temporarily stopped tempering his natal ritual implement and used his eyes to help Howren find the enchanted beast hidden in the dark. Although there were also exotic beasts roaming about in the forest, Howren, who had been using his mental state to maintain his clarity of mind, naturally exuded a domineering aura. This made the ordinary exotic beasts not dare to approach him, let alone ambush him. When they reached the core of the forest and saw a scallop half the size of a palm that was 80% similar to a horse's hoof, they didn't encounter any attacks from the ecstasy beast, nor did they find any traces of the ecstasy beast. Thowling, is the horse hooves in front of us real? Once bitten, twice shy. Howren was worried that the horse hooves in front of him were an illusion created by the enchanted beast, so he directly asked the Thowling for confirmation. "Don't worry, it's real." The Thowling, who was inside the victor and wasn't affected by the enchanted beast at all, confirmed. Howren remained vigilant as he bent down to remove the horse hooves and place them in a wooden box that he had prepared beforehand. After putting it away in his storage ear, he turned around and went back the way he came. Although he knew that the enchanted beast was very likely hiding in the forest, he didn't want to fight with the enchanted beast right now. More accurately speaking, he didn't want to waste too much time on the enchanted beast. As long as he could refine a poison pill that could destroy an upper rank 5 spiritual pulse, the enchanted beast wouldn't be much of a threat. As if it had sensed Howren's strength and vigilance, the enchanted beast that was hiding in the forest didn't attack him even after he left. However, just as Howren was about to leave the forest and relax his mind, a gigantic palm that seemed to cover the sky fiercely slammed towards him. Damn it! Seeing the gigantic palm descending from the sky, Howren cursed inwardly. Who would have thought? Howren never would have thought that the enchanted beast was only a distraction. Its real killing move was the full force attack of an upper rank 5 spiritual pulse. Sensing the aura emitted by the gigantic palm, Howren knew that the true strength of an upper rank 5 spiritual pulse had reached the first rank of a 6th rank, which was the strength of a first-grade martial king. If he wanted to repel or break this gigantic palm, he would have to use a transformation technique. However, since there were no terrifying beasts in the forest, there was no way to counteract the laws of the mystic realm. Therefore, it was unrealistic to rely on a transformation technique to block the gigantic palm. Facing the threat of death, fear only flashed across Howren's mind. He quickly calmed down and stimulated the Vajra monkey's blood essence in his meridians, allowing it to fill his entire body. However, he didn't use a transformation technique. Then, he took out all the zone realm artifacts from his storage ear and wrapped them in his origin energy before throwing them towards the gigantic palm that was rapidly approaching him. Although the zone realm artifacts couldn't be activated with spiritual energy and couldn't display their full power, they still contained a terrifying amount of power as they contained the aura of spiritual energy. In the face of the gigantic palm, the zone realm artifacts that were thrown into the air immediately unleashed their most primitive ability as artifacts when they were completely smashed into pieces. That was to self-destruct. Although they were forced to self-destruct and could only display 1/10 of the artifact's power, it still weakened the gigantic palm by a lot. Moreover, while weakening the energy of the gigantic palm, it also slowed down the speed of its descent. Taking advantage of this gap, Howren separated a trace of the Vajra monkey's blood essence and fused it into the What I Will Cudgel. Then he activated the perfect 10th stage and the perfect physical body's defense and waved the What I Will Cudgel that was activated by the Vajra monkey's blood essence and struck the gigantic palm. Puff! Just as the What I Will Cudgel that extended more than 10 meters made contact with the gigantic palm, an irresistible force followed the What I Will Cudgel and attacked Howren's body. Although the What I Will Cudgel, the perfect 10th stage physical body, the perfect physical body, and the Vajra monkey's blood essence's 4 layers of defense, the remaining power caused Howren to suffer heavy injuries in an instant. However, his many life and death experiences in his previous life had already sharpened his will like steel. He didn't care about the severe pain caused by the heavy injuries to his body, nor did he care about his vaguely broken meridians and blood vessels. Yu Haoran overdrew a part of his potential and raised his strength to the peak of the ninth stage martial master in an instant. He once again waved the what I will cudgel in his hand and struck the gigantic palm for the second time. Puff! As the what I will cudgel collided with the gigantic palm for the second time, an unbearable force followed the what I will cudgel and attacked his body. However, although he spat out blood and a part of the meridians and blood vessels in his body were broken, compared to the first confrontation, his body's condition was much better. Moreover, the second attack of the what I will cudgel also caused several very obvious cracks to appear on the gigantic palm. At the same time, what made Yu Haoran even more excited was that, through the second attack, he discovered that although the gigantic palm had the strength of a first-stage martial king, its control of power was very rusty. Chapter 245. Inside the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Yu Haoran took out a dozen pills from his storage ear and swallowed them. He once again overdrafted a portion of his potential and raised his strength to the limit of a peak ninth-grade martial master. Soon after, he waved the what I thought rod for the third time and struck the area where the crack appeared on the huge palm. Seeing that Yu Haoran had overdrafted his potential and his strength had vaguely reached the martial ancestor realm, the huge palm in the air appeared to be somewhat worried. Through the second exchange, the rank 5 spiritual vein knew that this seemingly weak human below had the strength to threaten its life. However, after hearing a baby-like cry from the dense forest, the huge palm that had stopped started to shrink and quickly struck towards Yu Haoran. PFFF. After the third exchange, Yu Haoran not only continued to spit out blood, his arms that were holding the what I thought rod were broken. However, Yu Haoran did not feel any pain or dejection when facing his broken arms. Instead, a happy smile appeared on his face. Although the third exchange had caused his internal injuries to worsen, the huge palm in the air had also been shattered by the what I thought rod. Due to his broken arms, he was unable to personally consume pills. Thus, Thaling could only take out 3 top-notch healing pills from the pills that she had placed in the victor beforehand and help him consume them. Soon after, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at the dense forest behind him. A frightening cold light flashed in his eyes. Afterwards, he did not have the time to meditate and heal his injuries. He immediately used his footwork martial skill and rushed back to the Red Rocks. 3 minutes after Yu Haoran left the dense forest, a white, cute-looking exotic beast that was less than half a meter tall walked out from the dense forest. This cute, seemingly harmless exotic beast was the enchanted beast that caused people to tremble in fear upon hearing its name. It was adept at controlling the minds of living creatures. Seeing Yu Haoran rushing towards the Red Rocks, the enchanted beast's cute face revealed a trace of worry, following which its body gradually became illusory and finally disappeared in front of the dense forest. Yu Haoran, you should stop and heal your injuries first. Otherwise, overdrafting your potential twice in a row and the severe injuries on your body will affect your next breakthrough. After leaving the dense forest, Yu Haoran had been suppressing his physical strength and Yuan Li as he desperately ran towards the Red Rocks. Seeing this situation, Thaling could not help but remind him. Thaling, not only has my body suffered unimaginable injuries, my mind has also suffered severe injuries. If I choose to stay behind to heal my injuries, I might have been tricked by the enchanted beast. Yu Haoran did not stop because of the Tower Spirit persuasion. He continued to grit his teeth and endured the pain. Sigh. What's that? His spirit's heart's heart was blood beasts. Thaling's injuries and in what's. Seeing that Yu Haoran had temporarily put some of the spiritual herbs into the victor, Thaling thought for a long time and decided not to use them without permission. Afterwards, he cast his gaze towards the 5 captured leaders of the 5 poison exotic beasts. He pointed a finger and froze the 5 leaders in place, then formed a seal with both hands. Wisps of white gas rose from the heads of the leaders. Every time a wisp of white gas left their bodies, one of the leaders' bodies would tremble involuntarily. Every wisp of white gas that entered Thaling's body would solidify a little more. When 100 wisps of white gas had entered Thaling's body, a white and tender hand was about to solidify. However, after losing nearly 20 wisps of white gas, not only had the 5 leaders' auras weakened by more than half, their originally robust bodies had also shriveled up a lot. Phew! Thaling exhaled slowly. He didn't continue extracting the life force of the leaders. Yu Haoran was willing to capture the leaders of the 5 poison exotic beasts alive, saying that they were still useful to Yu Haoran. As a result, extracting a portion of their life force without affecting their foundations shouldn't affect Yu Haoran's use. Afterwards, Thaling looked past the victor, past Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness, and towards the high-grade class 5 spiritual vein in the depths of the secret realm. Whether or not you can condense another heaven-piercing hand will depend on whether your life force is strong enough. It took him 4.5 hours to leave the red rocks and rush to the forest. However, it took him a full 6 hours to return to the red rocks, and that was even with the continuous consumption of pills. Just from this alone, it could be seen how severe Yu Haoran's injuries were. Looking at the red rocks that looked like a sea of blood, Yu Haoran, who had been tense all this time, couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Afterwards, before he could completely relax, he charged into the red rocks in a single breath. After giving a few instructions to Thaling, he completely fainted. Just as Yu Haoran charged into the red rocks in a spurt of energy, the adorable enchanted beast slowly appeared at the entrance of the red rocks. Seeing Yu Haoran charge into the red rocks, the enchanted beast couldn't help but let out a sigh. Afterwards, it turned around and disappeared on the spot. Seeing the completely unconscious Yu Haoran, Thaling couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. With the injuries that Yu Haoran had suffered, although being sober would help him recover, it would be very disadvantageous for him to recover from the injuries to his mind. Furthermore, Yu Haoran charging into the red rocks before he fainted allowed him to use the power of his consciousness. He could also use his own methods to help Yu Haoran heal. Thaling's consciousness enveloped an area of over 1,000 meters. Whether they were hiding underground, in the crevices of the rocks, or in the grass, they were all shattered by Thaling's consciousness in an instant. After shattering a large number of the bodies of the 5 poison's exotic beasts, a strand of energy containing vitality quickly condensed into a strand of white energy within blood. Afterwards, this energy quickly fused into Yu Haoran's body under the control of Thaling's consciousness. At the same time, Thaling used his consciousness to force his way into his storage ear and took out some of the best healing pills. He then used the power of his consciousness to guide the pills and began to heal Yu Haoran's injuries. Within the red rocks, within the poisonous fog, something's not right. Looks like Brother Yu is in trouble. Palace, who had long finished collecting the 6 spiritual herbs, suddenly realized that Yu Haoran, who hadn't returned to the red rocks for a long time, must be in trouble. Just as Thaling was using the flesh and vitality of the 5 poison's exotic beasts to heal him. Du Yuan, Brother Pig, wait here for Brother Yu. I'll go take a look. Thinking of the enchanted beast's cunning and sinister methods, he suspected that the other party might have made a move beforehand. When he thought of how Yu Haoran was only a martial master and was no match for someone with a superior rank 5 spirit vein, Palace immediately panicked. Therefore, after warning Du Yuan and the red redwood pig, he somersaulted and left the poisonous fog. However, just as he passed by the entrance of the red rocks, he vaguely felt that something wasn't quite right. Chapter 246. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm, Among the Red Rocks. As expected of a gifted exotic beast that inherited the bloodlines of 3 mythical beasts, he could actually sense the concealment formation that I set up using my divine sense. Looking at Palace, who was in midair, noticing that something wasn't right below him, Thaling suddenly became nervous. He waited until Pallas left the red rocks before heaving a sigh of relief and praising him repeatedly. Glancing at you, Howren, whose aura was gradually stabilizing, Thalink's grave expression did not ease at all. Then, he used his divine sense to control you, Howren's body, and flew directly to the rubble where the fierce battle took place. That rubble was where the exotic beasts of the 5 poisons gathered. Only at that place, the number of exotic beasts of the 5 poisons was enough to help you, Howren, recover from the injury to his mind. Damn it! Standing in front of the dense forest and looking at the bumpy ground, as well as the fallen trees around it, the Scarlet Loathe cursed with a gloomy expression. Then, the originally peaceful aura on his body gradually turned into a bloodthirsty and violent one. At the same time, his body, which was about the same size as you, Howren, vaguely showed signs of growing stronger and taller. Just as Pallas's bloodline was about to transform into Zhuyan's bloodline, a baby-like cry made him gradually suppress the transformation of his bloodline. Mi-hun, I once promised you that I would never interfere with any of your plans, but the premise is that you don't provoke me. Although Pallas suppressed the transformation of his Zhuyan bloodline, he had already partially transformed his bloodline. He stared at the top of a tree in the dense forest with bloodshot eyes and threatened. Mi-hun, you also know that because of my hybrid bloodline, I rarely make friends, let alone intimate friends. Brother Yu, other than Du Yuan, is the first normal human to have a sincere relationship with me. He is also the first friend that I, Pallas, respect. Now, you actually dare to sneak attack my friend. It seems that after not doing anything for so many years, you've already forgotten what I, Pallas, can do. Faced with Pallas' threat, the enchanted beast in the dense forest hurriedly cried out in explanation. I don't care if Brother Yu's methods will destroy your plans. I also don't care if you and the spirit vein can escape from this demon-sealing secret realm in the end. Since you hurt my friend, you have offended me. Since you have offended me, you must bear with me Pallas's punishment. Faced with such a threat, the Scarlet Loathe immediately rose into the air. Then, with a speed that was dozens of times faster than Gale, it arrived directly above the spirit vein in the depths of the secret realm. Then, Pallas clenched his fist. Pallas, 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 the enchanted beast, Pallas, Pallas, the beasts. Pallas, Pallas, realm, Pallas, Pallas, realm, Pallas. The rules of the secret realm. Don't challenge my patience. Otherwise, I won't just break a part of your rules. Looking at the eyes that slowly appeared in midair, Pallas temporarily stopped waving his fist and threatened with a cold expression. It was unknown what had happened between the eye and the air and Pallas. Faced with Pallas's threat, the eye that did not feel anything actually revealed a trace of fear. Then, a ray of light shot out from his cold eyes and merged into Pallas's left eye. The rules of the mystic realm. Don't worry, I'm just teaching him a lesson on behalf of my brother. I definitely won't use any power that exceeds your limit. After fusing with the light, Pallas's frozen aura eased a little, and he promised the eyes formed by the laws of the arcane realm. Then, the emotionless eyes once again disappeared into the void. Ling Yuan, this punch is the price you have to pay for attacking my brother. After the eyes formed by the laws of the secret realm disappeared, Pallas, who was floating in midair, spoke to the rank 5, grade 1 spiritual vein below. Then, he directly threw out the punch that he had been accumulating power for. Boom! It seemed like a simple punch, but it not only shattered the bodies of thousands of exotic beasts in the spiritual vein, but also penetrated the entire spiritual vein. Spirit vein, enchanting beast. My attitude is still the same as before. I won't help your plan, nor will I destroy your plan. Tomorrow, I'll go to the spiritual vein in the depths of the secret realm to cultivate in seclusion. After saying that it was going to cultivate in seclusion, the Scarlet Loathe disappeared from the sky above the spirit vein. Sizzle. After Pallas left, the enchanted beast and the rank 5, upper spiritual vein's voice could be heard from the source of the spiritual vein. From the tone of their conversation, it was obvious that they were no longer nervous and fearful. This was because Pallas had already expressed his attitude. From tomorrow onwards, he would not interfere in any conflict between them and Yuhauran. As long as Pallas did not interfere, the enchanted beast believed that with the rank 5, upper spiritual vein, and him working together, no one in the entire demon-sealing secret realm would be a match for them. After the conversation, the enchanted beast directly disappeared from the spiritual vein. More than 1,300 miles northwest of the Red Rocks, there was a mountain that was less than 1,000 meters high. The terrain was very dangerous, and it was easy to defend and hard to attack. At this moment, there were thousands of colorful tents set up halfway up the mountain. In each tent, there would be 1 or 2 disciples who would be participating in the trial. This mountain that was easy to defend and hard to attack was one of the safe zones that had been built after numerous trials in the secret realm, the calculations of the sect's experts, and the efforts of the senior brothers of the previous batches. In one of the tents near the peak of the mountain, the peerless beauty Lin Mingyao looked at the chattering young man in front of her and couldn't help but frown. Ever since she parted ways with Yuhauran, Lin Mingyao's heart was filled with regret. She regretted that she had chosen to leave Yuhauran because of her own selfishness. Therefore, after returning to the safe zone, she used the blood essence and eyes of the white jade dragon python to increase her cultivation and comprehension of the light wind palm. After 3 days of cultivation, not only had her cultivation reached the peak of 4th grade martial warrior, her light wind palm had also reached the realm of large success. Originally, she wanted to wait until her cultivation reached 5th grade martial warrior before leaving the safe zone and looking for Yuhauran. However, half an hour ago, Zhao Zong from the Gate Master's faction suddenly barged into her tent. Not only did Zhao Zong directly ask her to be his woman, he also made a promise that even the Gate Master of the 100 Qi Gate could not fulfill. Because of Zhao Zhuangqiang's special identity, and he was more powerful than her, Zhou Mingyao had to be patient. While listening to Zhao Zhuangqiang bragging about how powerful he was, she continued her cultivation. Chapter 247. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm. Senior brother Zhao, junior sister suddenly had an epiphany and plans to try to break through. So please. After being separated from Yuhauran for almost 3 days, Lin Mingyao was worried that the longer they were separated, the deeper Yuhauran's misunderstanding of her would be. She was now anxious to break through to the 5th grade martial warrior realm and then find Yuhauran to express her feelings to him. Therefore, she could only harden her heart and remind him, "Oh, junior sister Lin, feel free to break through. Senior brother will protect you." As if he didn't hear Lin Mingyao's intention to chase him away, Zhao Zong shamelessly asked to stay. "Senior brother Zhao, you are also a disciple of the sect. You should know that it is taboo for a cultivator to have someone disturb them when they are breaking through." Seeing Zhao Zong shamelessly continue to stay, Lin Mingyao couldn't help but angrily scold him. Could it be that senior brother Zhao also allows people to be around him when he is breaking through? Junior sister Lin, there's no one in the sect who doesn't know what kind of person I, Zhao Zhuangjian, am. I will definitely not disturb junior sister Lin's breakthrough, so junior sister Lin can break through without worry. Facing Lin Mingyao's scolding, not only was Zhao Zong not angry, but he also shamelessly sat there without moving. Senior brother Zhao, my senior sister Wu Jing of the Sunset Peak is in the tent above me. Do you need me to invite senior sister Wu Jing over? Seeing Zhao Zong shamelessly sitting there without moving, Lin Mingyao became even more angry and couldn't help but threaten him. Hee. Unfortunately, facing Lin Mingyao's mention of Wu Jing, Zhao Zong disdainfully sneered and said with a face full of ridicule, "Junior sister Lin, it's not that I look down on Wu Jing, but even if she knows that I am here, would she dare to come over? You." Although she knew that the relationship between the same sect was shallow, and Wu Jing might not dare to take the risk of offending Zhao Zong to help her, being directly pointed out by Zhao Zong made Lin Mingyao speechless. Junior sister Lin, if you want me to leave now, I can. However, you must swear to be my girlfriend in front of everyone on the mountain peak. You must also agree to marry me and consummate your marriage once we break through to the martial master realm. Otherwise, I will not leave the tent. Looking at the speechless Lin Mingyao, Zhao Zong very proudly made his request. Zhao Zong, are you not afraid of the Lin family behind me? Zhou Mingyao realizes that her senior sister apprentice can't threaten Zhao Zhuangjian. She has no choice but to mention her family of inheritance. Lin clan. When he heard Lin Mingyao mention the inheritance family behind her, a trace of fear flashed across Zhao Zong's eyes. However, when he remembered that he was still in the Blue Moon's secret realm and that his backer was the most powerful existence in the secret realm, the fear in his heart immediately disappeared. Then he giggled and said, "Of course I'm scared. After all, the Lin family is a family of inheritance that is comparable to the 7 top sections. But, junior sister Lin, don't forget where you are. No matter how powerful your Lin clan is, it is impossible for them to send experts into the Blue Moon's secret realm. If I can achieve something good with junior sister Lin before the Blue Moon's secret realm closes, I'm afraid that not only will the Lin clan not blame me, they will even acknowledge me as a son-in-law with outstanding talent and wisdom." Zhao Zong stood up and walked towards Lin Mingyao, intending to forcefully possess Lin Mingyao. "Zhao Zong, if you don't want to die, you can continue to come closer to me." Seeing that Zhao Zong had completely sunk into madness, Lin Mingyao knew that no verbal threats would be able to make him give up on his impulse to possess her. In desperation, she could only use her final trump card, which was the black birth ball that had been refined by Yu Haoran. "Junior sister Lin, don't." Seeing that Lin Mingyao was about to explode with the black birth ball, Zhao Zong quickly stopped and signaled Lin Mingyao to calm down. "Zhao Zong, although I, Lin Mingyao, am only the illegitimate daughter of the Lin clan, the Lin clan's unyielding character flows in my blood. Moreover, I, Lin Mingyao, view chastity as my life. If you dare to humiliate me, then I will dare to die with you." Holding the black birth ball tightly, Lin Mingyao expressed her attitude. At the same time, her heart was filled with endless disappointment, because when Zhao Zong was about to step forward to humiliate her, she had already used a special method to inform her senior sisters of the Dawnfall Peak. According to their peak 9th grade martial warrior cultivation, they should have already rushed in to stop Zhao Zong from 6 to 7 meters away. However, they didn't even see their figures until now. This was enough to show that they didn't dare to offend Zhao Zong and probably never treated her as a junior sister. Such a heartless fellow disciple actually made her reject Yu Haoran. In addition to disappointment, Lin Mingyao's heart was filled with regret. "Junior sister Lin, senior brother was just joking with you. Please don't take it seriously." Seeing that Lin Mingyao's left hand was tightly holding the black birth ball, Zhao Zong, who knew the level of the person who refined the black birth ball, paled and begged. At the same time, he also hurriedly took a few steps back. "Senior brother Zhao, as long as you don't harass me, I won't easily use the black birth ball. After all, in such a narrow space, I won't be able to escape from the explosion of the black birth ball." Lin Mingyao said with a smile as she slowly let go of the black birth ball. "Junior sister Lin, didn't you suddenly have an epiphany? Then I won't disturb your breakthrough, and will take my leave first." Although Lin Mingyao gradually loosened her grip on the black birth ball, Zhao Zong, who was afraid that the black birth ball would suddenly explode, continued to retreat while saying goodbye. "I won't see you out." Seeing Zhao Zong leaving the tent, Lin Mingyao sneered as she sent him off. After leaving the tent, Zhao Zong turned his head to look at Lin Mingyao with a trace of coldness in his eyes. Then, he suddenly thought of something and a proud smile appeared on his face. Using a movement technique, he rushed down the mountain. Among the red rocks, more than 10,000 5-poison mutated beasts' flesh and blood were used to heal Yu Haoran's injuries. At this moment, Yu Haoran, who was lying flat on the rock, not only had his breathing gradually stabilized, but his pale face also gradually became rosy. After using his spiritual sense to check on Yu Howren's condition, Thaling finally let out a sigh of relief. Then, he stood inside the victor and waited for Yu Howren to wake up. However, just as Yu Howren was about to wake up, Thaling, who had been observing the surroundings with his spiritual sense, couldn't help but frown. Then, he retracted his spiritual sense. Just as Thaling retracted his spiritual sense, Pallas, who had rushed back to the red rocks, appeared beside the rocks like lightning. Seeing Yu Howren lying flat on the rock, Pallas's face changed. Then, he pressed his hairy palm directly on Yu Howren's chest. After a short while, Pallas, who was checking on Yu Howren's condition, although his face was no longer gloomy, his brows were tightly knitted together. He looked around, and his gaze finally stopped on a pile of white powder. Chapter 248. In the Blue Moon's Secret Realm, Among the Rubble. After waiting for about a minute, Pallas put down his hands and muttered softly. Could it be that the senior who saved Brother Yu has left? Immediately after, he shook his head and muttered to himself. That's not right. I've almost explored the entire demon sealing secret realm, and I've never seen an exotic beast that's stronger than me. Could it be that there's a secret in the demon sealing secret realm that I, Pallas, don't know? Ahem. Following a soft cough, Pallas's guess about the senior who saved Yu Howren was interrupted. Bending down to help Yu Howren sit up, Pallas asked with concern, Brother Yu, are you all right? Shaking his head, Yu Howren closed his eyes again and began to communicate with Thaling through his consciousness. Thaling, not only have my injuries recovered by 70%, but my overdrawn potential has also been replenished. Even my severely injured mind has recovered by 90%. You must be the one who did it. Although the first person he saw when he opened his eyes was Pallas, Yu Howren knew that it must be Thaling who saved him. Although Pallas was strong, he was not as good as ordinary warriors in terms of healing injuries, not to mention his overdrawn potential and severely injured mind. That's right. Nodding his head, Thaling confirmed that he was the one who helped. However, immediately after, his tone changed and he said cautiously, Yu Howren, your injuries were too severe. Not only was your mind severely injured, but you also overdrew your potential twice in a row, causing your life force to be greatly depleted. If you didn't treat it in time, not only would it affect your future breakthroughs, but it would also cause your foundation to be unstable, which would be detrimental to your future breakthroughs. Therefore, I could only forcefully extract the life force of the 5 poison exotic beasts and use it to make up for the loss of potential and heal the injury to my mind. Ever since he met Yu Howren, their first communication was using 3 months of Yu Howren's life force in exchange for 3 months of time acceleration. In Thaling's mind, he thought that Yu Howren would definitely hate the method of extracting life force. That was why he was so cautious in his explanation just now. Thaling, thank you. Extracting life force to make up for the overdrawn potential and using life force to heal the injury to his mind. Yu Howren was only grateful for Thaling's methods. He didn't blame him at all. Furthermore, in Yu Howren's mind, as long as he didn't extract his own life force, he didn't have anything to do with the life and death to himself. After a brief exchange with the Tower Genie, Yu Howren opened his eyes again and thanked the Scarlet Loaf. Thank you, Brother Chi. Pallas quickly waved his hand in the face of Yu Howren's thanks, indicating that he couldn't accept his thanks. He also expressed that he was partly responsible for Yu Howren's injuries. Brother Yu, I'm sorry. I really didn't expect the spirit source and the enchanted beast to launch a sneak attack on you, causing you to be heavily injured. After that, he explained to Yu Howren that he had helped him. Thank you very much, Brother Chi, but you don't have to do anything in the future. I have my own ways to deal with them. Yu Howren gritted his teeth as he thought about how he was fooled by the enchanted beast and how he almost died at the hands of the upper-grade rank 5 spiritual pulse. Brother Yu, I checked on your injuries just now and found that you've basically recovered. I wonder if it will affect your pill refining later? Pallas asked with concern. After all, he had already promised the upper grade rank 5 spiritual pulse and the enchanted beast that he would go into seclusion to cultivate in the spirit cave in the depths of the secret realm tomorrow. He had to wait until the conflict between the two sides had officially ended before he could return. Therefore, he was worried that Howren, who obviously didn't have any advantage in terms of strength, wouldn't be able to refine pills in a short period of time. In that case, he could only hide among the red rocks. Don't worry, Brother Chi, this injury won't affect my pill refining at all, Howren said confidently as he shook his head. When he was faced with the upper grade rank 5 spiritual pulse's second attack, he had chosen to overdraw a portion of his potential to ensure that his dantian wouldn't be damaged. After all, refining that poison pill required his rich pill refining experience as well as the guidance and assistance of his dantian fire. Fortunately, the upper grade rank 5 spiritual pulse only had the power of a martial king, but not the comprehension of a martial king. Thus, when he successfully repelled the opponent, his dantian wasn't damaged at all. That's good. Howren's reply made Pallas secretly heave a sigh of relief. Subsequently, Pallas directly used his powerful demonic energy to carry Howren into the poisonous fog. Seeing Howren being carried into the poisonous fog, Du Yuan and the Red would hurriedly asked, "Brother Yu, are you all right?" Rumble. "Brother Du Yuan, Brother Boar, don't worry, I'm fine." After indicating Pallas to disperse his demonic energy, Howren stretched his arms and legs before asking the three people at the scene, "I wonder which 8 medicinal ingredients are missing. Did you guys successfully find them?" "Here." Pallas directly took out 8 wooden boxes and indicated. "Catch." Immediately after, a wooden box was spat out from the lake, accompanied by Du Yuan's voice. Rumble. The Redwood boar directly spat out a wooden box from its mouth. "Not bad." After checking the 8 medicinal ingredients collected by Pallas, Du Yuan, and the Redwood boar, Howren couldn't help but nod his head in praise. Subsequently, he said to Pallas, "Brother Red, time is of the essence. Howren would like to trouble you with a matter." "Brother Yu, as long as you don't want me to kill the spirit sources and enchanting souls now, you can ask for anything. Even if you want me to send you out of the secret realm now, it's not impossible," Pallas said in an incomparably domineering manner. To be able to send him out of the secret realm while it was still open. After hearing Pallas's domineering reply, Howren couldn't help but take a look. He realized that his understanding of Pallas was probably very different. However, no matter how powerful Pallas was, at least they had a good relationship now. The stronger Pallas was, the better it would be for him. Therefore, Howren didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his request. "I'll have to trouble Brother Red to send us directly to the volcano where the Earth's core fire is located." The reason why Howren asked the Scarlet Loathe to send him off was not only to speed things up and allow him to refine the elixir earlier, but also to prevent himself from being ambushed by the ecstasy beasts and those with superior rank 5 spiritual veins. After all, he was able to defeat the upper level 5 spiritual pulse previously because he had more tricks up his sleeves, and also because the upper level 5 spiritual pulse and the enchanted beast had underestimated the enemy. "No problem." Nodding his head, Pallas first raised his hand towards the poisonous fog surrounding the lake and inhaled. Almost 7 layers of poisonous fog were quickly sucked into his hand. Then, he directly condensed the fog into a ball and threw it towards the lake. The poisonous fog began to sink slowly. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.